If Africa is poor, why don't we just give them more money?
We did. Over $1 trillion. And somehow, poverty grew.
That doesn't make sense. Money fixes problems.
Only if the system works. Money doesn't build foundations. It just flows through whatever is already there.
But aid rebuilt Europe after the war.
Europe already had courts, laws, tax systems. Aid didn't create order. It accelerated order that already existed.
So Africa just needed more time?
It needed institutions. Instead, we sent cash. And cash in weak systems becomes power, not progress.
Where did the money actually go?
Private jets, offshore accounts, presidential palaces. Some of it never even touched the people it was meant for.
Then why didn't citizens vote those leaders out?
Because the leaders didn't depend on citizens. They depended on donors. No taxes, no accountability, no consequences.
But aid still builds schools and sends food, right?
Sometimes. But free food kills farmers. Free clothes kill factories. Charity can quietly erase local jobs.
So instead of growth, it creates dependence.
Exactly. When help never leaves, people stop building. They start waiting.
Then what actually makes a country rich?
Boring things. Property rights, rule of law, local businesses, governments afraid of their own voters, not handouts.
So the problem was never lack of money.
It was lack of systems. You can donate cash. You can't donate accountability. And without that, even $1 trillion disappears.
This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world.
Cameras on, we're going live tonight. American pride and patriot fight. The white rabbit has taken flight. Knock, knock, sleepy Neo, this is for real. We're swallowing red pills left and right. Come and overdose with us Tuesday night. They say we're crazy, say we've gone too far, but we're just truth seekers under the dome. Don't be mad at us, Google Chrome. They laugh, they mock, they think we're insane. Please just use your effing brain. This is the UPC where real Americans are standing up, taking control of the matrix we keep dying for. You don't like it, you can leave. If you wanna complain, call the damn 6 screens, cause we're already detached from deep state machines. They say we're crazy, they say I've gone too far, ready to drown us with feathers and tar. If you're still in our country, we haven't gone far enough. They love to hate us, thinking we've gone insane, but we could care less, they don't know our pain. This is the UPC where real Americans are standing up, taking control is king. Oops, I'm anti-Semitic too. This is the UPC, where real Americans are standing up, taking control of the matrix we keep dying for. You don't like it, you can leave. If you wanna complain, call the damn 6 screens, cause we're already detached from deep state machines.
All right, everybody, welcome. We are live. We got Jimmy Bell and we have Grady. It is Grady's first time here, guys. So be nice in the chat. If you have any questions during our interview, just put them in the chat. I'll bring them up later. For the first 30 minutes, we're going to keep it closed until we're kind of like done with Grady giving his positions, and then we can invite people on. All I ask is that you be respectful, no cursing, and that's about it. It's cutthroat.
No cursing. Come on, Ruby. You're mute. You hit mute somehow.
Am I glitching? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you now, but for some reason it showed your microphone was muted. So
okay, can you hear me now? Is everything good?
yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
Yeah. Welcome, Grady. Welcome aboard.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Yeah. I hope everyone's doing good this evening. Happy 250th anniversary, America. So y'all got any plans for the 4th?
Just hanging out with the fam and contemplating if we'll have another 250 more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We're definitely gonna talk about it tonight.
Good question to have.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun because it's also my daughter's birthday. So we're gonna do something nice for her on Saturday. Okay, so we're gonna jump right into it. So I'm gonna let Grady introduce himself, give us your age, your background, where you're from, and your political leanings, and then we're gonna question you on those. Go right ahead, Grady. The floor is yours.
Thank you again for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Grady Rich. I'm 18. I am originally from North Carolina. I moved down to Florida in 2022. I would consider myself far right and a nationalist. I am also an Eastern Orthodox Christian, which has also affected my political views. I got into politics around the 2020 election and then fell out of it and got super blackpilled after J6 and everyone got arrested. I mean, Steve Bannon even said those were the darkest days of the right, and I think they were because a lot of people fell out of the political sphere. But then coming into 2024, I got right back into it, and here we are now.
All right. Well, fun fact, Jimmy Bell was there on J6, and we talk about that frequently on our show. So I know, if Jimmy has any questions, definitely jump in, Jimmy. I'm just going to say the reason why I invited Grady on is because I do know him personally. He's an acquaintance of mine. And that's what interested me. I was like, how is another Orthodox Christian so politically outspoken the way I was? And I don't think we really kind of come across those types of people in real life. So when I found Grady and his content online, that's what piqued my interest to have him here. So we're going to put all his socials in later. Don't worry about that. But he is just like us, very outspoken, very different. I'm going to say different because I agree with mostly the things that Grady talks about on the internet. But I wanted to kind of, hear it himself here, right? So my very first important question, Grady, we kind of discussed this off screen, but my biggest thing is, how do you reconcile your political views with your religious ones? Because a lot of people think that Christians are either pacifists or weak or not real Christians at all. Like we've touched on that before, but I kind of feel like I know what a Christian is and what it isn't. And we can use politics with our religious views, even though a lot of people disagree. But you know, it is what it is. I want to hear it from you. How do you put those two worlds together?
So I would say that pacifism is a lie to keep Christians weak. I think that is I think it's a very satanic idea of pacifism, because you only see pacifism when it's the individual, but when it's a collectivized center of Christians, you never see pacifism. And is it pacifist to go into a temple and start tearing things up and calling the people of the temple the children of Satan? Is that pacifist? Or is it? It doesn't seem pacifist to me. And I would say for me, a big thing that made me not pacifist was seeing the medieval church and how the early Christians were. They were willing to defend their land against any type of invader because they knew that would bring their culture down, because their culture was centered around Christ. There was no separation between race and religion because they all kind of merged together. And when they started separating those things, I think it started bringing their culture down. Like you had people like Vlad the Impaler, who is considered a saint in many churches in the East, right? And that's not pacifism. That's not pacifism at all. But he knew what would happen. You know, putting people on pikes may be bad, but what did the Turks do to the Christians in the Middle East for centuries? He knew putting them on pikes was actually a lot more merciful than what the Turks were doing to the Christians in the Middle East. I don't think you can be pacifist as a collectivized people to people who are savages. And the Turks, the Muslim Turks, they're savages. I mean, that's what they did. They were going into these Christian neighborhoods and slaughtering people. So for me to sit there and say you are to be a pacifist is to allow your Christian nation to fall. Hey, we want our nation to be a Christian nation. Christian nations have to make some very big decisions on who lives and who dies. And it sucks, but that's just kind of how the world is. I don't know if anyone knew this, but like there's bad people in the world and we have to defend our nations against them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So now bring me with that sentiment, bring me to modern times. How do you feel? Because I think we would both agree that America has fallen in that sense, because we are not a Christian nation anymore. But that's just my opinion. Where do you stand with that?
Okay. So there's a little bit of a build up here. We got very peaceful after World War II. We thought it was going to be world peace for forever. We thought it was okay. And when you have literally like literal communists trying to take over the nation, people who are working for Satan, people who have the will of Satan, like Judas had the will of Satan. That's why he was under possession and he was 100% on the same will as Satan. The people who are trying to destroy us are 100% on the will of Satan. And Christ casted Satan out of heaven. He saw him fall like lightning. And we have to expel the people who are for him out of our nation. And I don't think you can just sit there and hold someone's hand kindly and say, can you please leave? Because let's go. Like, okay, Jimmy, you know, you were a part of the whole J6 MAGA crowd. How did pacifism could have worked for you guys? When you guys were at the gates, did you say, did the cops say, hey, get back, get back? How did get back work? Did that work?
Actually, they didn't even say get back. They let you in.
Well, okay, then. There you go. So we have, but that's the good point, though. We have a lot of people in our country who are letting people who are harmful in. Obviously, you guys were doing the right thing. But the people who are at the border right now, and spiritual and physical, who want to come in and destroy us from within, they're being let right in by the people who've already infiltrated us. And you can't fight fire with a hug and a handshake. That's just not how it works.
All right, can I say some things?
Yeah, jump right in. Go ahead.
First off, Grady, I want to say that it's very impressive that you are 18 years old and you are discussing these topics. That bodes very well for you. So
thank you.
I'm gonna give you kudos on that. The one comment that you made that I really liked was you can't be pacifist with savages. So that was one comment. I'll come back to that one. And the other one was that you said that pacifism has made Christians like not do anything, not fight for this country. And And they're always expect, and we've talked about this before on the show, that, you know, everybody thinks, and, you know, believe what you want, but everybody thinks that the Jesus is going to come back and save them and blah, blah, blah. And they just rely on that while the country burns to the ground or while kids are getting trafficked or things like that. They don't get involved politically. And when they don't get involved politically, then that deteriorates their local society, their county, their state, and eventually the country. So I agree that there is a time that you do have to fight fire with fire. And so when it comes to can't being passed with savages, I totally agree with that. Now, what I will say is I think there is a way, and I do believe that it's being done right now, and folks can believe what they want about that. But instead of using the traditional means of war and bloodshed, I think there's a different game being played to defeat, quote, savages. That's, if you don't know me, probably. So I have a lot of ideas about things, but so
do you have a question?
Yeah, go ahead. All right,
no, finish what you're saying and then throw a question if you have one.
All right. So, well, first off, what part of North Carolina were you from?
I was from the Greensboro High Point area.
That's where I'm at. I'm in Liberty.
Oh, freaking sick, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great place to be.
Yeah. Do you have family down here?
No, all my family's in North Carolina.
That's what I'm saying. I'm in North Carolina. So
okay. You said down here, so like North Carolina is north for me in Florida.
Sorry.
No, I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Yeah. Yes, I have family in North Carolina.
Oh, cool. So you come up to visit and everything.
Every now and then, yeah, it's a good place.
Oh, next time you're up here, let me know and I'll take you out to lunch.
Sounds great, man. There's some great barbecue places around there.
Yes, there is. So okay, so let's. What was your thoughts on J6? What do you know to be true about J6? How do you feel about that?
I actually knew a J6 guy. I went hunting with him 2 weeks before he got arrested. And for me, I remember the day J6 went down. And ironically, and it's crazy how God works, I was in a museum about the American Revolution, reading about Nathaniel Greene as a minor revolution, as a revolution was really taking place. I mean, people were storming the Capitol. And for me to be in this museum and seeing these great heroes of the early American days and then watching brave men storm the Capitol was like very awesome, right? Because I've always been raised right wing. So seeing these people stand up and go to the Capitol, it's like, yeah, that's what we should do. That's what the founding fathers intended us. If things were not going right, we were commanded by the founding fathers to take up arms and go to the Capitol and say, hey, no, actually we're in charge, not you guys. We are.
Have you what was incorrect? Have you looked at an alternative view of what happened with J6 and any other explanations that you've heard?
Oh, like what? Like a lot of it was like feds or something like that, or
yeah. So from my experience, this is what I experienced. It was a beautiful day. It was great. It was awesome. There were so many people there. And I'll just go ahead and say this. If the folks that attended J6 wanted to take over the Capitol, there would have been nothing those people could have done. There were just so many people. So the original intent was not to storm the Capitol, not to do that. Most of the people there, you know, we're sitting back and we're watching this take place. And a lot of those folks were like, we couldn't believe what was happening. But unfortunately, what I had found out later, that they want the same people that were fighting, the same people that are destroying our country, set it up so that look would be there. One, you have the one side, like, you know, you're on to where, yeah, you guys, that's great. You guys should have done that. And then the other side is saying, oh, what a horrible thing. What a travesty for America. And that was a political tool used to divide America, in my opinion. So after looking at everything and noticing, hey, they actually shot rubber bullets and spray out, and the crowd wasn't even doing anything at that time. They also were letting people into the Capitol opening up the doors, opening up the gates, just letting it happen. And then we have concrete proof now that there were over 260 federal agents, FBI agents, confidential sources out in the crowd, egging it on. And I'll tell you, I actually did see when I was walking down Pennsylvania Avenue towards the Capitol, I actually saw people on the side and back of the bushes off the road a little bit that were changing their clothes from Antifa gear to MAGA gear. And these were the people that were going up to the front and trying to get in. So in my opinion, I believe that J6 was a tool used by the deep state to cover up the election of 2020. That's my
opinion. Think it was many reasons. Go ahead, Ruby.
I was just about to ask you that, Grady. Are you into conspiracy theories, or do you believe in any theories?
Yeah, I'll start with J6. I'll hop on to other theories. So I think J6 was many reasons. So you had BLM, where you had a bunch of violent thug savages burning down $9 billion Summer of Love type thing, right? So you got $9 billion of damage. How do you one up that? It was a very long process. This wasn't just an overnight thing where someone was like, light bulb, got it. No, it was a months long task. They let these savages burn down all these buildings, kidnap white kids, autistic white kids in Chicago, beat them up, dump feces on them, and then those guys get sent free. Statues being torn down, pretty much erasing American history. So what is it? So when statues of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington are being hung from light poles, people forget their history.
Right.
So when true American patriots storm the Capitol, they do what is commanded to them by our founding fathers. And they're the demons. They had to one up the $9 billion in damage. They had to one up what the left had done over that summer. And the only way you can do that is by storming the Capitol. I mean, then you have like reports like, oh, all these officers committed suicide after. You know what I'm saying? And Ashley Babbitt dying could have been prevented. I don't think the cop had to pull the trigger, but you needed some type of death to spark it up more.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I totally believe that this whole thing with J6 was manufactured by the deep state, because the intentions, I know with my intentions, I had no intention of storming a Capitol when the day started. And there were a lot of people that I talked to that were around there and were like, we can't believe this is happening. This is not what we came for. So it wasn't a collective where everybody there was a patriot storming the Capitol, because we don't operate that way. We let our voices be heard. But what good is it going to do? Okay, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say that was the goal. What is that going to accomplish if all of us just took the Capitol? What's it actually going to accomplish? Send a message? Maybe, but in the long run, it wouldn't have really accomplished anything.
It wouldn't have. And no, you're 100% right, because think of the logistics of that. You guys go into the Capitol. Let's say you have you had Enrique and the Oath Keepers in there.
Oh yeah.
Someone's probably gonna either held hostage, they stop the election results, blah 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 blah. Eventually, people are gonna get tired and go home. But what does that make you? That makes you an individual. Then the Fed just arrests everyone anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's not like an alternative to this, because as soon as you guys leave, then the National Guard gets deployed en masse. Then what?
It wasn't
a thing that could have worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it was funny because because I told the group that I was with, I said, let's go ahead and get on out of here, because the vibe was getting really bad. And I was like, we need to go ahead and get on out of here. And then we're starting to walk back to our hotel. The next thing I know, we start seeing National Guard come in. Why weren't they there in the beginning? Well, we know why, because Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of DC declined that to happen. So yeah, it was a whole thing. What's that, Ruby?
Can you see me? Can you hear me? Or am I glitching out again?
Yeah. What did you just say?
I felt like it was controlled chaos. So it's like fake and real at the same time.
Exactly.
So that's I just stay home. I don't really believe in, doing that type of stuff.
But
Go ahead.
But if you think about, we got to remember, the tactics of these people that are against America. One of the biggest tactics is what? Divide and conquer, right? So they did it with the summer of love stuff, you know, and then they did it again, you know, that got the country all in an uproar, you know. Racism started coming back heavily during that time. And, you know, oh, the government, the police, blah, 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 blah. It was so much division and chaos during that summer. And then it, like Grady said, they had to one up it. So now, instead of letting the left look bad because of the summer of love, let's go make the right look bad. So now we're pulling the strings of both of these groups, and we're the ones back here laughing because, you are all falling for it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Right. So really quickly, I want to bring the center back to Grady and kind of grill you a little bit more on the way you describe yourself or define yourself, because you call yourself a nationalist. Now, what does that mean to you? What is a nationalist? How do you view that?
I think a nationalist is someone who puts his people first, and I think that people is a very specific type of people. I don't think if someone was French and called themselves a nationalist, they cannot put South Africans first. So for me as an American, I will put Americans first. And the definition of an American is often debated on. And I can go into that if you want me to. But I would say that for
me,
that
was my next question.
So I would say an American is someone of a descendant of the founding stock of the European settlers, also from the people of Ellis Island. I think this country was built for the descendants of Europeans, and I would back that up with the Naturalization Act of 1790, signed by the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, saying that in order to be an American, you have to be a white man of good character. He was going to make it white Christian, but Thomas Jefferson and him obviously were clashing. That was their whole careers, was them clashing. So it's I would define an American as someone of a white man of good character. And that kind of was our immigration policy for many, many, many years until the 60s, where you had LBJ come in, communist, infiltrated, Zionist lover, you know, giving nuclear codes to Israel, fair housing, civil rights, stuff that accelerated our nation. We were a frog being dropped in boiling water, not even a frog in boiling water.
Okay, yeah, let's work with that, because I know a lot of people are gonna kind of take that the wrong way, and I just kind of want you to clarify that. So when you say things like that, is it fair to say that you are maybe like pro-white, or I don't want to say white nationalist, but where would you go with that? Because when you say what an American is, when you said of white European descent and Ellis Island, those types of immigrants, well, what about the immigrants or descendants of slaves? You know, people who were born here, came here, and they don't know anything else but America. Or maybe like an anchor baby who was born here, doesn't know the language of their nation or their country. All they know is America. Would you consider that person an American? So I want you to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I probably should have went more. I would not consider an anchor baby an American. Just because a horse is born in a fishbowl doesn't make it a fish. So I think you can't really, because again, you're taking away from the people. If it's only with America is this little like twist around the shoulder nonsense being spewed. If my white cracker self was born in Nigeria when my mother flew there when she was 9 months pregnant, right? If I was born in Nigeria, all those black people there would not consider me a black African, an African, you know what I'm saying? And so I think this, and you said the people who are legally immigrants, again, it kind of takes away from the people who are considered an American. I'm not looking to go to France and become a citizen and then I'm French, right? I don't want people to consider me French because that's just not true. What is a nation? A nation is its people. If that people is just every freaking body in the world and we're just one giant melting pot, which that lie was made up by a Zionist Jew. If a bunch of people just flood into here and say everyone's an American, then we actually have no identity. We have no identity because these people never understand what American culture is. You see it with Frisco, Texas, where they're taking over. The Indians are taking over. They're building Hindu temples and Hindu statues.
Yep.
LA has been a Mexican takeover for years. New York City with, the tunnels. there's no assimilation. And even if there was assimilation, these people at the end of the day are still going to side with their tribe. It's human nature to side with your tribe.
Right.
There's 12 tribes of Israel. There's not one tribe of Israel. Obviously, the people are going to be different. And there's not any shame in that. If people are different, that's fine. We have one massive world.
So let me ask you this. America was an idea. It was an idea to come about. Never had been done before in the history of the world. And so ideas are different. So when America, yes, started by European descendants and people that lived there and everything, then we had the immigration policy. But the idea of America, yeah, our people are important. But what is the most, if you had to pick one thing, what's the most important thing that upholds the idea of America?
Probably the Constitution.
Correct. So it would be the Constitution. So in my opinion, anybody that came here legally, we think about all the immigrants from the 1800s and the 1900s. You got Italian people coming in, Irish people coming in. If they're upholding the idea of America by adhering to the Constitution, then me personally, I don't have a problem with folks coming from overseas. If somebody from Africa decides, you know what, I really don't like living here. There's no freedom. I can't do this. I want to go into America legally. And they go through all the steps in the process and take the naturalization test and pass it and become an American. Why wouldn't they be considered an American in your view?
Because then again, to be an American is to be a part of a very distinct group of people. Like the Italians and Irish, I agree with you, because again, Alexander Hamilton wrote, "White men of good character can become an American." But if a man just comes here with a passport and says, look, I'm American. Okay, does that mean I can get a passport to Nigeria and say, hey, look, I'm a Nigerian guy?
Well, if you went to Nigeria and you started doing Nigerian things, upholding their customs, supporting their culture, and yeah, in my eyes, you'd have every right to say, hey, I'm now a Nigerian, because, I think your identity as a person is based on the values that you hold dear and uphold. So if people are coming into America, let's look at the World Cup here, for example. I have tons of videos on my TikTok that I saved showing that all these people from all over the world, not just the European continent, but folks from Asia, folks from Africa, folks from South America, they came here and they realized that they were lied to about America. The media lied to them because a lot of folks were told, oh, if you go to America, you're going to get shot. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. But they came here and they experienced it and were like, wow, this is pretty freaking awesome. And there were a lot of people that have already gone back home because their team's lost, and they're putting out content saying, well, man, I really want to become an American. It really felt free there.
And they assimilate. Let's put that out there as well. They assimilate. Are they considered Americans, Grady? Yes or no?
Again, I would say no. I think it's something deeper than that. I think it has to be blood. I think it has to be genetics. Again, for me to say, hey, okay, if I go to Japan and I learn Aikido and I become a citizen, right? And I start making their food. Japanese people will never consider me as a Japanese guy because they really care about what their culture is much deeper to them. And I don't think it should be an exception just because we're America, right? We're America, the land of the free. We're just one giant melting pot. Again, this melting pot idea, it was made up by a Zionist Jew. Or we're going to base our entire policy on who could be an American on the words of a Zionist Jew. I think it should be based on what the American founding fathers said, which was the Naturalization Act of 1790, white men of good character. And that doesn't mean we should just ridicule everyone who is here who is not considered an American. Because again, the U.S. has territories. Ruby, Puerto Rico is a territory, right?
Yeah.
We have some Pacific Islands that are territories. The Philippines for a while was a U.S. territory. So if these people come here, again, they're not necessarily an American, but they're also like a brother in arms because they are our territory.
What do you, are you filming? I think it was Teddy Roosevelt who didn't even like the term, African American or Japanese American. He didn't like the hyphenated American. He viewed everybody. See, I think that's where we're different, where the difference of opinion comes into play, because Roosevelt was like, hey, if you're upholding the Constitution and you're assimilating, yes, that's a huge factor, then I think you can be an American.
Sure, but what was our immigration policy then?
Well, it was very different.
It was only white people.
Yeah, well, again, when you have an idea about something, things do change. So I'll have to go back and look because I'm not sure, but I'd like to see if there was any amendments or changes to, what year did you say that was? 1790?
Yep, Naturalization Act of 1790. But I did
one thing about that, I'll just say this. That was done before the Constitution was ratified.
I don't think that would discredit it, though, would it?
But so hold on a second. I'm just, that's one thing we do on the show. We like to fact check things.
We do everything in real time, and we will bring up a chat. If you want to bring a chat up, let me know.
I did want to bring one up because someone, JG 58 said, Grady, what about the Native Americans and the Mexicans that were here prior to the WASPs? And I would answer that with, I would say, the Native Americans were not considered Native American until the 60s. They were given that term in the 60s. They were prior just referred to as Indians, because again, sure, they were here first, but if you tell all these tribes of Native Americans that, hey, you're a Native American, they're like, no, I'm this.
Right.
They would actually correct you. They don't want to be referred to necessarily as the Native Americans. They want to be referred to as what their tribe is. And the Mexicans, again, it kind of bounces back to my point of who can be an American. Sure, the Mexicans were here before. You had like the Tex-Mexicans who have completely had their, they've kind of been bleached out of society. They've mixed so much with the whites. Obviously, there's some, but again, I would refer to it as just like Alexander Hamilton's clear on who can be an American, and Mexicans aren't really a part of that. And if we're going to take Jimmy, you made the point of this was before the Constitution. I would still say if we take the founding fathers seriously on everything, then we should take them seriously as well on the Naturalization Act. And again, this is not to discredit or demean anyone. I think everyone has the right to manifest destiny within their own right and with their own people. That is completely their right. That's what Americans did when we went way out west. And there's a lot of comments here.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Definitely, guys. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will bring them up. But I just want to point out something very ironic and funny. Is so Grady, I'm Puerto Rican, right? So would you consider me an American? I just want to clarify that.
It depends on how much DNA you have that is related to Spain. If that is the majority of your DNA to Spain, then I would consider you partially American. Yes. It's the same way if my cracker self went to Puerto Rico and started making dishes and flying the Puerto Rican flag, your people would run me off the island for claiming
but Puerto Ricans range so much because of the Spanish influence. They had babies with the Taínos, and my own family. I'm like the whitest of the white from my very brown colored family, right? So. And this is funny because on the show a while back, and Dave is in the chat, I said that he wasn't an American. So I just wanted to point out how funny that is. It's like we tend to do that, and that's okay. Like, I don't take offense. Grady doesn't take offense either. I made sure of that before he came here because this is what we kind of do here. And my definition of an American is very, I agree with you 1,000%. But you see, when it comes to myself, of course, I'm going to say I'm an American. I feel more American than most people that I come into contact with, right? So that's why I agree with Jimmy that the idea sometimes is more powerful than the origin. Because even though I am of Puerto Rican descent, I am an American because I was born and raised here. I speak English, and I feel, like I said, I feel more American than most people when it comes to politics and stuff like that. But it's different for you. It's a different spectrum for you, and that's why I wanted to have you on here to express those ideas. They're very different and rare. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thankful that you are outspoken about that, and that you're not bending the knee to anybody when people ask you these types of questions, because you are really super young, and I can't even believe it. I wish I was like you when I was 18. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very commendable.
Yeah, I'll give him that. So I'll definitely give him that.
Yeah, like, it takes a lot of bravery to do what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's
I have
great.
a lot of inspirations.
Please, that was going to be one of my questions. Please tell me, who are your inspirations? What motivated you, or what radicalized you? Because there's not that many white people like yourself that speak like you. So give me your inspirations.
Key point, real quick. What key point you said there? Speak like me. A lot of people think this way. They just don't want to say it because they don't want to get canceled.
Exactly. Good point.
What radicalized me, I kind of brought it up earlier, during the Summer of Love, where we were being a heavily diverse and beautiful nation. The so-called Americans who were proud of this nation decided to burn down $9 billion worth of property all across this country. And in Chicago, 4 black teens decided to kidnap an autistic white kid. They tortured him for 3 to 4 days. They put feces on him. They cut his hair. They ripped his shirt. They beat him. They gave him a concussion. Also during that time, many statues of the founding fathers were torn down. And since I am extremely proud of the South, and I am big on the Confederacy as well, a lot of their statues were torn down as well. And I remember being 13 years old, my great-grandfather sitting me down and saying, "Hey, Grady, one of your ancestors was a Confederate general. You should be proud of that." And hearing that from him, a man who I looked up to greatly, a man who served his country, I had to do a lot of research into the Confederacy, which made me more proud to be a Southerner. I'm very proud to be a Southern American. And that is kind of what pushed me in the way of radicalization. To see demographics change throughout the nation is a big thing as well, because my great-grandfather didn't fight in Korea. So his kids or his grandkids would be kidnapped in Chicago, or all these people didn't fight in these wars to be kidnapped in Chicago, tortured for 4 days by people because of ridiculous reasons. I think when police were bending the knee, but then, obviously turning the eye on people who cared about the country, because they bend the knee to people who are burning down all these buildings. But for Jimmy's case, they just let people right in the Capitol. And they're obviously working against us. And I realize that I'm a minority of my own country. In Florida, white people are 55% of the population. And that's a problem. I don't think that's good. The same way I don't think that if the French people become a minority or the Nigerians become a minority, that's a bad thing. The people of the nation should not be a minority in their own country. So this is the things that radicalize me and push me to where I am now, because, again, I'm a nationalist and I would always put my people first.
Let me ask you this, Grady. Are you familiar with the Great Replacement?
I am familiar with the Great Replacement theory.
All right. What's your thoughts on that?
I think the Great Replacement theory has a lot of truth to it. I think that it is no coincidence that for the past hundreds of years, white Europeans and their descendants have built the best nations to ever see the earth. The biggest empire in history was the British Empire. And since then, we've brought so much stuff to these countries through colonization and through ending slavery. Like, the British fought wars to end slavery. But now you have this narrative that we should let in all these migrants because of racism, and diversity will make our country better. And it's just this constant lie of pushing diversity will make your country better. Diversity will make your country better. Well, what would you have? We have savages coming into our country trying to start all Hindu towns, all Muslim towns, all Jewish towns. Excuse me. And the Great Replacement has a lot of truth to it, because you see enclaves of people coming into our nations still being pushed by the usual suspects. And I don't think that Sweden has gotten any better since they've been culturally enriched. It was the safest country in the world, and after their great replacement, they're now they have now the highest rape cases in all of Europe.
So let me ask you this: so we know that's happening. I totally agree that the great replacement is happening. But let me ask you this before I go further into this: who do you think is behind the great replacement theory?
I think it's a mixture between massive corporations, and I also think it's the big J's from Israel.
Okay.
I don't want to say the exact names.
I got you. I got you. Do you think that there's more people involved in it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I don't think just because I think Israel is involved doesn't mean I think the Democrats don't want it either. Like the Democrats are obviously involved with the great replacement. Biden could have shut the border down. Kamala, I'm the border czar. Oh, well, thanks. Appreciate that one. So these people are all involved with this stuff.
Now, do you believe that our politicians have been infiltrated by these powers that want to push great replacement, want to push all this other stuff?
Yes, because if it's not illegal immigration by the Democrats, it's legal immigration by the Republicans who are letting in H-1B visas en masse, which now the DOJ just came out and said over 80% of them have some sort of fraud, right? Yeah. So we say legal immigration, but it's been hindered a lot. And I saw that message you put on there. I'll answer that when we're done with Jimmy.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and say, yeah, I totally disagree with illegal immigration. I disagreed with Biden leaving the border wide open. I disagree with these other nation people coming in here and turning, Minnesota into a little Somalia, or turning Houston into I do not agree with that one bit. And these are individuals that should be expelled from our country immediately. I agree 100% with that, because I do know that to destroy a civilization, to destroy, a country that is so strong, and knowing that they can't do it militarily, there's just no way they can. So the only way they can do it is to infiltrate the country, bring in their ideas, and then when true Americans speak out about it, then they put their propaganda arm into place, the media, to tell the Americans, oh, you need to be more diversified. You need to be more welcoming to these individuals.
Which is just anti-white hate, really. It's just masked.
Yeah. So yeah, I do agree. Now, where I disagree, of course, we've already talked about what makes an American. I disagree with the logic there a little bit. But I do agree with the fact that these people coming in need to get the fuck out of our country.
I agree. But again, you say legal. If 30 million Indians want to come here legally in the next 4 years, are you okay with that?
Right. No, I'm not.
To me, to me, it doesn't matter, because if they're coming here and they prove themselves that they want to adhere to the Constitution and assimilate, I have no problem with that. Because if you're bringing, like, these people that, well, it doesn't help when I say Scottish people, because they all wanted to come here anyway. But let's say if an African American wanted to come here, or an African wanted to come here, and they wanted the life of the U.S. Constitution, the life of America, I have no problem saying they're an American,
as long as it's legal. Whereas I'm 1,000%. I don't care if it's legal or illegal. I don't want nobody coming.
So that's the disconnect.
I understand all this, right? And you have to ask yourself that we make these examples. Well, if they want to assimilate, well, how many of them have assimilated? Even no offense, Ruby, the ones from Puerto Rico. Who do the Puerto Ricans look up to? Look up to Bad Bunny. What does Bad Bunny do? He doesn't speak a freaking drop of English. The dude is he's just an idiot. I don't know what to say. And how many Indians want to assimilate too?
Yeah, and we spoke about this, so I'm with you 1,000%. But I do want to go back just a little bit, because when you started talking about the Confederacy, and I do see that in your profile picture, and as soon as I saw it, I started laughing.
Yeah.
But it was kind of because it was like, okay, I kind of know where this guy stands, right? I mean, it says a lot when a Southerner carries that kind of pride and flag with them. And I only saw that really over here when I moved to Florida. But I'm gonna kind of like throw this to you. Why should we be proud of a group of people that deterred, that rebelled against the Union and kind of fought a war over it? They killed their own brothers and sisters over it, when we're supposed to be like Americans of like the Union, right? That's what we support. That's what we stand for. That's what we have right now. So what would you say to that kind of a question? Like, why would you rep that flag if they are rebels? Go ahead.
Okay, so real quick, someone asked what my education was from. I was homeschooled since the 2nd grade. There we go.
Nice.
Besides that,
that's nice.
To move on to the question you asked, the reason I am proud of it is because, number one, it's my heritage. Truly is my heritage. I know a lot of people say that, but I remember my great grandfather gave me a whole history thing, and the big reason too is they had every right to secede. The states don't have a right to secede. Is that a bad thing for them to secede? And why did they secede? And a lot of people who say slavery, have you read the secession letters? And everyone who says slavery cannot claim they read the secession letters, because if you read every single secession letter, you will find out that it wasn't all about slavery. And because guess what? Only 1 to 3% of the South owned slaves. And the biggest slave hub, the slave port in the Caribbean, was owned by the big J's. Okay, so it wasn't. You think you can take a poor white farmer, collecting dirt and barely scraping by in the South? Hey, go fight for the slaves that you don't even own, that you'll never be able to think about owning, right? There's no way you can convince a massive population of freaking hillbillies to get up and go fight for slaves that the richest of the rich own. The real reason is because they were making around $1.50. That was like the average salary of a Southern man. If you were in the Army, you were making like $4.50 to $5. So it was much better deal to be in the Southern, the CSA, and fight in the Army than it was to be in the Union, because what we see in the Union was New York City riots. The freaking city burned at the start of the war because no one wanted to fight the war. And again, the slavery narrative was made by Abraham Lincoln and more towards the middle of the war. It wasn't originally about that. He made it about that. You asked Robert E. Lee what he thought of slavery, and he would tell you he didn't like it. My ancestor was one of the best horse racers in all of Virginia. There's a monument after him in Virginia. There's even a high school that is based off of him. And he didn't own slaves. He was the best horse racer in all of Virginia. He didn't own slaves. His cousin, who was also fighting in the Confederacy, he didn't own slaves either. So what we come to realize, it was only a very small minority of people who actually fought for slavery. And again, I believe that America is diverse in its own ways. People from New England are not the same from the people from the South. People in California are not the same from the people in the South. Even if you just take the white Americans, we're not the same. America already has its own diversity. So to expect us to agree on everything is foolish. That's why Thomas Jefferson was such an anti-federalist. Thomas Jefferson knew that the culture of the Carolinas was much, much, much more different than anywhere else. Because why? The Carolinas were more British loyalists. They had a different idea of what they wanted for their state. And that's why the 10th Amendment is made. Because the states have the ability to decide for themselves what they want to do. And that's why I would push that. Is I think the CSA had every right to secede. I think right now, if states want to secede, they have every right to. It's their decision. They are the state. They are representing the people. If the people of that state want to secede, that state should secede. It's serving the people. And if Abe Lincoln wants to go to war with the South when New York City burns and people are dodging the draft and they're paying little kids to go fight for him on the front, that was a huge epidemic. Then you get the slaves involved, right? Yeah. He is not doing the will of the people. That's why Lincoln was so unpopular until he finally started winning some battles in the war. Because again, you had freaking shoeless hillbillies destroying the entire Union Army.
Yeah, Grady, I will agree with some of the points there, because a lot of people, and this is because of the schooling and because of the propaganda that we've received over the years, way too many people believe that the only thing about the Civil War was slavery.
Yep.
And it was not. It was not the case. And if you still believe that, I suggest you do some deeper research into that, because the biggest thing was, yes, it was about state rights.
Yep.
Right.
That's what it was about.
Yeah, and we talked about this in season 2. I was kind of like really heavy with that when I was learning about that, because I was waking up to politics. So I'm really glad that you explained it so well. Go ahead, Jimmy.
But this is where if you dig deeper into the Civil War, we all know that the bankers and the rich people and all, the elites, they're the ones that start these wars.
Right.
So if you look, the Civil War was pretty much manufactured as well, because if you look at the end of the Civil War, it was 1865 or 1864, exactly what it was. Then what happened in 1871, just 7 years later, where we come off the original Constitution. So that was put in place. There's no theory about that anymore. That's actual proof that, in 1871, we came off the original Constitution, became a corporation.
Yep.
And that was the original intent of the Civil War, was to get us to that point.
Yeah. And to say the South wouldn't have given up slaves is foolish. I mean, the first problem that Florida mentions in their letter of secession is the Union's not paying their port tax. So automatically that separates the states right then and there. The fact that they can't just freely come in from different states. The Union's not paying their port tax. Arkansas said that there's too much federal land going on. There's not enough land for the man to come out and manifest his own destiny. Texas had a problem with their railway building. South Carolina was very clear, like, hey, no, slavery is good and we want it. Mississippi said we could maybe make some progress in the future and make some slow abolition of slavery, but like it can't happen right now. That'll crush our economy. And how are you going? And no, people just don't think. It's like, okay, so they're going to keep slavery while the whole world is going into an industrial revolution. Even the South was going into an industrial revolution. It just had to take time. And you have Reconstruction coming after the Civil War was quite literally dropping a frog in boiling water. And to destroy the South even more, then you had stuff like the Civil Rights era. And again, you can agree with desegregation and still look and go, maybe just dropping people in the grease where, you had the news channels going out to Dallas. I don't know if you ever saw those interviews where you have news channels going out to black neighborhoods saying, aren't you excited to go to the white school? No one liked it at first. You can't just drop people in the grease like that. It's foolish. And this was the plan to destroy Southern culture, because what's one thing that the South is known for? It's hospitality. It's love, Southern culture and Southern love, right? We are very close people. Even right after desegregation, before desegregation, people were just helping their neighbor. People were loving their neighbor. We have the thing called the Bible Belt, right? The hardcore Christians are in the South. To destroy the heart of America, the thing that really makes it pulse is to destroy the South, to destroy the culture. And that's one place where obviously you have major cities in the North where savages get away with a lot. In the South, you don't get away with much stuff as you do. Carmelo Anthony, if he was in California, he'd be walking the streets free right now. If he was in New York, he'd be walking the streets free right now. He's in the freaking South. He's going to get, hopefully the AB will get a hold of him because he needs to pay his due. But there was a lot of questions in the chat, and I kind of want to answer some of these if you don't mind.
Yeah, I am starring them. Let me know if you want me to bring anything up. I do.
Bring them up.
While you're doing that, Grady, this is where I take a smoke break and I go outside and I get on the chat.
He's addicted to cigarettes. I'm trying to get him to quit, but go ahead.
Hey,
Jimmy.
at least I'm not doing it all the time in the cage. At least I'm here in the office.
Go ahead. Do what you gotta do.
Do your thing, Grady. I'll be back in about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, let me know if I have starred a couple of questions because I want to move into. I mean, this is a pretty easy question. JG asked, "What's your position on separation of church and state?" So that's pretty easy, in my opinion. If you want to answer it.
Yeah, I would prefer the church be like literally the head, but also I think that comes to the state's decision. If the people want that, the people want that. If they don't want that, they don't want that. But I would prefer, of course, that the state and the church are like merged and it's going hand in hand with the church. But again, you're not going to have a bunch of people who are going to want to be on board with that.
Exactly. So my follow-up question would be, do you consider yourself a Christian nationalist? Is that fair to say?
I couldn't give you an exact definition of Christian nationalism, so I probably wouldn't, just because I couldn't give you a definition of Christian
Okay,
nationalism.
that's fair. That's fair because I do consider myself one, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty open about that on here.
Yeah.
But I agree. I do believe that America should be based on biblical values and principles, and it should
Agreed.
be Christian. And if it was up to me, in my fantasy world, I would have an Orthodox monarchy, but American version, and everybody
That
would
would be
have to
great.
they would have to conform or leave. But that's me, and I consider that a little extreme because everybody's gonna disagree with that. So
Well, again, it comes down to the state. If the people want that, then they should absolutely have that. Like, the state is there to serve the people.
right.
And that's why, like, that's the danger of the South having its own independence, is all these states would be like the most Christian based states that we've ever seen before. Like, as soon as Roe v. Wade
Mhm.
gets repealed, all these states just start dropping anti-abortion laws. And that's what you're going to see. If the South has some independence, we'll go to the moon and back with based Christian values, and that's what we want.
Right. So let me ask you, I saw your interview with James Fishback, and I was kind of surprised that you were able to get that close and to get an interview with him. Would you consider yourself America first?
Ooh, I don't think I would. I'm not identifying necessarily with the Groyper movement when I say that. Not that I have anything against them, but I would
Mhm.
consider myself an America first man, yes, because I am a nationalist.
Okay, great. Because moving with that, you're obviously gonna vote for James Fishback, right? Because the election is coming up, and we're in Florida. I'm voting for him as well. So I was gonna ask you, what are your thoughts about the election coming up?
I worked on his campaign. He put me in hotels in West Palm Beach. He bought me supper and lunch, and he's been very good to me. He put the Confederate statue narrative in the mainstream of his campaign. So I will vote for him because he's been so good to me. Yes, not that I agree with him on absolutely everything, but I definitely would vote for him just
Mhm.
because he's been very nice to me, and I feel like I kind of owe it to him.
Oh, wow, that's nice. Okay, we're gonna shift gears. So, Raf has a question here. If immigration was more strict and so forth, and yet the US is still accepting people from all around the world, is it still being viewed as the great replacement?
Yeah, great replacement can come illegally or legally. I don't, because again, like I asked Jimmy, is it okay if 30 million legal aliens come in here from India? Because guess what? What's going to happen is they're all going to tribe up in one area, and they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
assimilate to American culture. That's why it's so good
Right.
for people who come into the country to be a major minority, because they're forced into it. But if all
Mhm.
these Indians pack up in one house, which I see all across Florida, where they pack in all into one house and start making their little ethnic enclave of neighborhoods, who they got to assimilate to? They own the gas station. They're
Right.
providing for themselves. They have no reason to assimilate. So yes, it's a great replacement, legal and illegal. I think we should put a halt on all of it for forever. All immigration from the third world should be banned.
Okay. From Joseph. So, people who are not of European descent who fought in foreign wars for the United States, does Grady view them as Americans?
I would give them an honorary status. Like the rooftop Koreans get my honorary status. Do I think they're an American just like me? No. But do I respect them for their service to the country that they are living in? Absolutely, I do. But again, yeah, it's nothing against them. It's just the
Mhm.
philosophy of the state. Like if we
Mhm.
read anything about Plato or Aristotle when it comes to the state and who people are, then it's very clear that not everyone could just be who they want to be. If I'm born in a barn, doesn't mean I'm an animal. Jesus was born in a manger, doesn't mean he was an animal in a
All
barn.
right. Right. No, I totally get you. Another question from Raf respectfully asks you, what is a Christian?
Hmm. I would say a Christian is someone who believes in the miracles of Christ, who also will take on the belief that, oh, okay, yeah, the miracles of Christ, of like him rising from the dead, and obviously just the very tip of the iceberg, born of a virgin, died on the cross for all of our sins, rose 3 days later, and that's what I would consider a very standard level of just a Christian. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I go a little further than that. I would say, like, if you agree with everything that is described in the creed, then that makes you a Christian.
Okay.
But not, if you're not practicing that, then you're not a Christian, in my opinion. So there's different levels to it. That's why I feel like when I say Christian nationalism, it's even a little bit more hardcore than just a regular nationalist, because you're requiring more. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're demanding more of a nation that doesn't believe in those things anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like a unicorn sometimes, because I don't think we're ever going to get there.
I'm trying to include the people who just converted. And someone said, Grady, how about live as a good Christian? I would love to. I'm trying my hardest here.
Exactly. So that's pretty hard to kind of, distinguish. So I don't really push it, but that's where my ideology is, if that makes sense. So I would say more like constitutionalist, I would kind of describe myself.
Yeah.
And those are like certain things that I wouldn't budge on. How about you? Like, what do you identify politically?
What would I identify?
Or is it just a nationalist? Like, is there?
I would identify as a nationalist because, again, the Constitution kind of falls into that. That I would put the Constitution first. I think it's the best written document outside of like a religious text. Obviously, I would put what the documentations of Christ and the Church and the saints that we have first. But then I would put the Constitution literally just like right below that. I think it was perfect for the time and the people. And people have some very good questions in this chat. Love thy neighbor as thyself.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Grady, I just like to challenge people. So
go for it. Challenge.
Yeah. So you made a point when you were talking about Fishback, and you said that he bought you dinner, put you in a hotel, did all these nice things.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Okay. All right. And you said, would I vote for him? Yeah, I'll probably vote for him, even though I don't agree with a lot of his ideas. Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement.
Okay. So, devil's advocate, isn't that what happens on a bigger scale with donors? They treat these people, give them money, take care of them, and basically the person that they're taking care of may not completely agree with the individual, but they're going to go vote for them because they were nice to them and they gave them all this money.
Okay, so I would distinguish it because I would say that's a good question. That's a great point. So I would say the with the foreign lobbyists and the donors, right? We had the foreign lobbyists who AIPAC will say, hey, don't criticize us over the war. Right. The Indian American lobby will say, hey, advocate for legal immigration with H-1B visas. For Fishback, he's not asking me to advocate for, justifying genocide. He's asking me for his vote so he can stop overdevelopment, so he can dump more money into a state-funded ICE, so he can launch a Florida state-run airport system, so you don't have to fly to Atlanta and then Tallahassee from Orlando.
Yeah, that's stupid.
So he's asking me for a lot less than to justify war in the Middle East.
All right, so what views does Fishback have that you do not agree with?
Good question.
I don't agree with his views on civic nationalism. I don't know if you ever saw him with the Frojax brothers. They kind of debated on what an American is, and he seemed to kind of get caught up a little bit in that. I don't think he understood it, and that's fine. We can disagree with that. But again, I will be okay for now because I think Fishback is a stepping stone. I'll be fine with voting for Fishback now because what we're going to be demanding in 4 years is going to be way past Fishback.
All right, so I always love asking questions. This is what I do. This is what I do. So let's say he gets in there, and instead of him focusing on the things that you like about him, what if he turns around and just starts putting all his focus on things you disagree with?
That would be very foolish because then the majority of his base would turn on him because the thing is, as someone who worked on his campaign before he even announced it, like I was in a group chat with these guys and everyone agreed, right? I hung out with these guys. I had lunch with them. I've had supper with, I still talk to a lot of them. They are not the exact same as me, but they are very, very close. So if he were to turn on his views now, he's turning on the entirety of his foundation. And we all know if you build your foundation on sand, which I hope he did not do, it will get swept away in the storm.
We'll see. And unfortunately, in our political system throughout the years, decades, we've seen that happen way too many times. That's why, you guys are young. You haven't been in the political scene too long, and not questioning your knowledge and history of things. But we do see that happen a lot, to where these politicians, they'll play a good game, but then they turn on everybody. And I just think that goes into a higher problem with the people that want to control this country and get rid of America and our Constitution.
So with the young people, sure, we may be a little bit more inexperienced, but the people who are experienced have been getting played and bought out for.
I will agree with that. I will agree with that.
So it's time for a change of face, for sure.
Yes, I will definitely agree with that. And I even say that. I even, no offense to anybody in the chat or anybody that's watching, but folks that are in their 70s and their 80s, I believe personally, they're way more brainwashed than I am.
Oh,
because
yes.
They've been subjected to the propaganda longer. Going back to our religion that we came from, that's true. The folks that are in their 70s and 80s, oh my God, Jehovah is the best and paradise is coming. And I'm here and I'm looking like, yeah, y'all don't get this. And no matter what evidence you bring to them, they're still going to adhere to what they've been taught. Same thing on the political side of things. So I like the fact that the younger generation is starting to ask the real questions and break the propaganda. So I do like that, because I think that will be a huge benefit for the country in the future.
It's created a major divide for sure. And again, like, my grandparents are obviously older, and they've kind of came around to the whole foreign influence, let's just say that. And I've kind of swayed their view on it, because they were growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, told that, the people from Israel are God's chosen people. We must send all of our money over there, and white men and Americans must go die for it. The wars over there. What is your opinion on Israel? My opinion is all religions that are not from European, that are not based as European religions, should be banned in the United States. That includes Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. They should all be banned from the U.S. because these people always put their religion before they would the American state.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I say I'm a Christian nationalist, because that's exactly what I would do. I would outlaw heresies and things like that. But that's a conversation for a different kind of stream.
No, I agree. Someone said, Grady, so if a new rule came up that all U.S. citizens got to give up app-ons, would you? I saw that question. I see like he's building to something good, but I would like to, if he could elaborate on what that means.
Who is it from?
A guy named Jane Spitfire.
Oh, Jane. Maybe
I
it's
align
a
myself with
typo?
Eastern Orthodox Church.
I don't see
it probably is a typo, but I gotta figure out what they meant to say.
Yeah, so Ralph in the chat is asking denomination, but he's EO.
So I was Wesleyan and a mixture of Southern Baptist, but then I came to Eastern Orthodoxy in 2023.
Oh wow, that's pretty recent. And I don't think you know this, but our audience majority are ex Jehovah's Witnesses, and Jimmy and I are also ex Jehovah's Witnesses, and I converted to Orthodoxy in 2024. So we are.
And I don't give a damn about religions.
Yeah, Jimmy doesn't. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
Someone said something interesting here.
Yeah.
Leon said, God said in the Bible that those who bless Israel bless him. I don't know if, now again, Leon, I don't know if you're trolling or not, because that's been a Tucker Carlson like joke, but if you're being serious, I will address it. We have to understand that there has been a change in the New Testament, and the new Israel are the people who believe in Christ, and those people are the new Israel, and they will be blessed. Like it's Revelation 3:9 says, those who call themselves Jews, they are not Jews. They are actually part of the synagogue of Satan. And they will worship at your footstool and know that I have loved you. So they are not they're not the Jews of the time. If you look at the history of Israel after Christ being there, the Jews of that time don't even exist anymore. They don't exist.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people, and that's the problem with some Christians is they'll take that scripture and be like, oh, we got to bless Israel because then we will be blessed. Okay. You do realize that the Israel that you're wanting to bless didn't come into existence until 1948.
Exactly.
So how could that scripture apply to today's Israel?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. Why should we bless the state of Israel that is genociding Christians in Lebanon, Iran, Gaza? It doesn't make sense. They bombed the second oldest church in the world. They bombed it in Gaza. And the thing was, it was reported that it was bombed. It actually wasn't. Israel came out and said, no, we didn't. And then the next day it gets bombed. These people are literally like, the state of Israel is from Satan.
Yeah. And
they are the most evil people ever.
Yeah. And like you said, there are those that will call themselves Jews, but they're not going to be Jews. The state of Israel, the government, the state of Israel is not Jewish. They are, like it says in the chat, and we've talked about it before on this show, they are from Khazaria, the Khazarian mafia. These are the people that went in there and were set up. They were given the opportunity to set their system up. Who gave them that opportunity? Going back to 2 weeks show, the British Empire, the city of London,
which was infiltrated by the Rothschilds. And Leon, that was a great
question.
So again, where was Netanyahu born? Was he born in the state of Israel?
Oh, he was born in Poland.
Yeah, he was Poland. Can we name can I count on my fingers all the prime ministers of Israel? How about just one hand? How many of them were born? Can I count 5 that were born in Israel? I can't. I can't count 5 prime ministers who have been prime minister of Israel who were actually born in Israel. They were all born in Eastern Europe or New York City.
Yeah, I'm doing a quick check on that.
You're right. Really quick. Grady, is it okay if I open up the stage? So
yes, let them all in. Let them all in.
Okay,
if you want to question,
you know what? Wait a second, because I'm going here to Google and I put in how many prime ministers were actually born in Israel, and you know what it says here? The 3 Israeli-born prime ministers are Benjamin Netanyahu, born in Tel Aviv on October 21, 1949. I thought he was born in Poland.
Well, he is Polish, that's for sure. He's not.
Yeah. So hold on a second. I'm going to double check this real quick.
Someone said, "What's your opinion on Jared Kushner?" Jared Kushner is like literally accelerating for the Antichrist to come.
I do not like Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner's a piece of garbage. Diamond Dave, what's up, man?
I like this dude. Even though we have a different worldview. There's a lot of people in the chat that have been wanting me to respond to certain things.
Wait. Before you do, please introduce yourself, Dave, because Dave is also a unicorn on this show. So just give us a quick nutshell where you're from and your
quick nutshell about me. Quick nutshell about me. So I live in Mongolia at this time.
Okay.
I am Hindu. Yep. So I was born in Minnesota. My mother was Christian. My father is British Indian. So I got a mix of the Christian and Hindu upbringing. I am not ex-JW, but I am ex-Mormon. I joined in 2020, left in 2024, met my wife online, and that's why I moved to Mongolia, among other reasons.
Okay, pause right there. Let that sink with Jimmy. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I got to come back to this real quick before we get further into it. It actually does. I went and checked him out. Benjamin Bibi. He was actually born in Tel Aviv, raised in West Jerusalem, and
so that's one.
Returned to Israel.
One of 3.
But see, but I'm thinking, I thought he was actually born in Poland. So,
well, his parents are Polish. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, his parents are Polish. Yes. I thought he was actually born in Poland, but he was actually born in Tel Aviv. So I just want to make sure we get that correct.
Okay, let's go back to Dave, because Dave is a he contributes to the show every Tuesday, which is great because he brings a very different perspective. We're polar opposites. So Dave, go ahead.
Well, Grady was saying in a tame way what I have said before, because Grady was talking about, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, not quoting, but paraphrase it, because America, and I brought this up before, but because America is a Christian nation, Christianity should be the predominant religion and in control. He said it should be banned. I've advocated for concentration camps. I've advocated for non-Christians to be executed publicly to force compliance. Because let's be honest, other countries do that, right? This isn't me trolling. We look at the Middle East, they do that and it works. China does it and it works, right? And people may disagree with the methods, but if you look at China and the Middle East, for instance, there's not this social chaos in those countries that we see in America. Like what was it? A few months ago, I was reading online that some black dude set a woman and a train on fire in a subway, right? Yep. And that just blew my mind because that just doesn't happen in other countries. We don't have school shootings. We don't have the moral decay that is in America. And while I acknowledge that Christianity has a very different worldview, I also, part of the reason why I'm actually disappointed in Christianity, and I've talked with Ruby about this before, is like, I respect like the Holy Roman Empire. I respect the Catholic Inquisition because they stood by what they believe and they fought for what they believed in. But if you look at American history, right, America was a Christian nation until the 50s, but Christian men allowed liberals to take over the legal system. Christians allowed the school system to take over. Christians allowed the liberals to do all these weird and bizarre things. And Christians let this happen.
And they got paid for it.
Well, hold on, pause. I want to know what Grady has in response. Grady, how would you respond to what he just said?
I would go back to what I said earlier, is that we thought everything was going to be peace forever after World War II. So all these ideas that were coming in were cool. And then you had a generation after the 50s who were like, freaking screw the traditional stuff. We're going to smoke weed and go to Woodstock. So you had these people coming into the society who were accepted. Again, we thought everything was going to be okay. We're the best nation in the world. We have our boom. We are winning. And again, I disagree with the cutting or the concentration camps like that, because again, we refer to these people as savages. So I don't want to be the savages, because again, as white people, we're the ones who have destroyed the savages in the past and also kept the savagery out of our country. So we can do both at the same time. So I would say that, yes, I actually agree. There has been a little bit of there has been weakness from the Christians of the society, because they were sold a lie that everything is peaceful now. Everything is okay. No more wars. Hitler's dead. I mean, again, it was just a money race with the Soviet Union. No one actually thought we were like going to go to war with the Soviet Union. And then until like the Cuban Missile Crisis. But besides that, it was like, we're good. We're in heaven.
One point I will push back on, and I will disagree with Grady, is when we talk about like white people, European history, I would respectfully disagree. If you look at mental asylums, historically throughout Europe, the mental asylums, whether you look at Denmark, Sweden, Norway, or even in Great Britain, the Christian mental asylums operated in the exact same way, right? So I would argue they are not savagery. And if you look at American history did have mental asylums that kept the really bizarre people that we see out of the social infrastructure, right? But today they're gone.
I agree. I don't know if my statement reflects that I disagree with mental asylums. What I'm saying with savagery is like cutting people's hands off. That's what these third world.
Oh, I see. Okay, then I apologize.
I agree with mental asylums. We should.
I was talking about the Yeah. So like we're on the same page when it comes to like what the liberals call concentration camps. That's what the mental asylums were, and that's why I hate the term, because like the concentration camp. I mean, we see that with ICE facilities. People call them concentration camps. But if you look at the Americans who are going to the Netherlands, for instance, and they're posting videos. They're trying to get asylum in the Netherlands, right? Because America is so oppressive. But guess where they are? They're surrounded by barbed wire and they're living in tents.
Yep.
Right? So it's no different than the mental asylums of the 1800s back, either in America or in Europe.
I want to just, I have a comment about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Gail.
A lot of people that were put in asylums back in the 1800s, early 1900s, they weren't all mentally ill. They were thrown in there because they were throwaway society. And a lot of them were thrown in there and mixed in with orphans and small children. So not everybody who was in there was mentally ill. And I can prove that with a couple of documents I can show next week.
Yeah, I have to agree with Gigi because I do believe in the whole reset of the 1800s, and that these people that were thrown into asylums would be equated, in my opinion, to the same people that got put in jail for J6. They were people who knew stuff.
Well, and this kind of goes back to the argument that liberals use with jails, right? Innocent people go to prisons, and that's a bad thing. Well, sure, there's going to be innocent people that are thrown in prisons, just like there were normal people that were thrown in mental asylums. But overall, the vast majority, statistically speaking, were not sane people. Yes, it's tragic that innocent people and children were put in these asylums, but that is not the norm. Just like it is the overwhelming statistic that it is criminals being put in ICE detention facilities. And sure, you might get some occasional legal immigrants that get caught up in the mix. That's sad. But the reality is it's doing more good than harm.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that for sure, because it's like El Salvador, right? They were the murder capital of they were like one of the murder capitals of the world. They started locking up everyone. You're going to get a few innocent people in there. But what's the trade-off? They have a lower murder rate and they're a safer country than the entire U.S.
Yeah, they're like one of the safest countries in the world now.
True.
It's like you got to bite a bullet thing. It's a bite a bullet situation.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, why did they all disappear? All these asylums that were put in the United States, 90% of them are all gone and demolished. So why? Ask yourself that question. Why? Where'd everybody go? And what they do with them?
Well, see, my first instinct on that would be, if you've got people in these asylums who are literally mentally ill and they have issues, what better way to destabilize a city, county, town, whatever, state, country, by releasing these people into society? You know, and if you think that's crazy, well, we see that now, where, like Grady was saying, if Carmelo Anthony was in California, he would be walking free today. So they have no problem in letting criminals into our society. What makes you think that they wouldn't have a problem with releasing mentally ill people into our society?
Ronald Reagan did it when he was the governor of California.
And
exactly.
In the state of Massachusetts, one of the they used to call it a moron hospital. It was mainly for they don't use this term anymore, mentally retarded adults. And that what they did was they took that most of that population and tried to integrate it into the communities. Because I worked in a few halfway houses where we had some of the patients from Walter Fern. You can look up Walter Fern. It's a disgusting story. Well, anyway, and there was a lot of pushback from the community. They didn't want them in their neighborhood, but a lot of them did very well and ended up getting their own apartments. But at the time, they were all pretty brutally abused while they were patients in Walter Fern. Then we had Metropolitan State Hospital. They got closed down the same time. And that I'm like, why are they all closing down? And where are they putting these? I know that they had a lot of programs across the United States for the special needs population. I don't know where the mental health patients ended up going, but I just wanted to add that because I worked with them.
Well, I mean, and to Jimmy's point, it's part of the system, because if you want a society to collapse, you're going to release the criminals and you're going to release that chaotic element. Right. And that's something that I speak I'll bite harshly and bluntly on. And the reason why I do is because liberals like to they want to play the emotion game. And so I like to double down and lean into their own verbiage and use it against them because they can't do anything about it. Right. So, and I mean, it's the same thing too, like when it comes to immigration. And I've talked about immigration before, and I don't know if Grady saw this, but if you look at the people who are coming over illegally, the overwhelming majority of them, they're either criminals or they're poor people who will not assimilate. I've touched on the show that I know people from India who came over and worked with me at Wells Fargo in a corporate position on an H-2 like the H-2B visa or whatever it's called in America, right? You know what those people do? They work for a couple years and then they go back home. They don't stay. They're not the problem. It's the open door policy that is the problem, because it is really easy to get into America legally. And to clarify for people in the chat and to clarify for Grady, it was much harder for me to get an F1 visa here in Mongolia than it is to get into America.
Sure.
Just real quick, another point in talking about these asylums and these people being released on purpose to hurt our society. What's the number one thing we ought to think about too? What does it all go back to? Money. It's always follow the money. So by letting these folks out, now the state doesn't have to keep up this asylum, all that. They don't have to do all that anymore. The repairs, maintenance, feed the people, So they set up these other entities within the state organizations. Oh, well, we got a program for this disorder, or we got a program for that disorder. And all this money gets poured into these programs, but we have a worse mental health crisis in the United States than we've ever had.
Right.
So what good has that money done? It hasn't. Where has it gone? And what are we learning through all the stuff in Minnesota and California and other states where they have all that money laundering going on in these state programs?
I can answer that because, again, my background is in finance and accounting, and I grew up in Minnesota. So Jimmy hit the nail on the head where it's money laundering. And if you follow the money, what you'll see is it's going to get thrown around to either NGOs, like someone said in the chat, or it's going to be thrown into construction projects. And a perfect example in Minnesota is you can actually do a deep dive on the Leering Center, right? The Learning Center in Minnesota, right? The Leering Center.
Yeah.
Well, they actually have ties to, the Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis. And one of the parallel institutions next to them, ironically, is the Minneapolis construction. Why has I-35 still under construction to this day? And I say to this day because when I was in high school in 2003, that highway was under construction. If I could take you to Minneapolis, Minnesota right now, that area is still under construction over 20 years later. Nothing has been done.
Yeah.
It's money laundering. And it's a way of shuffling it around. So that way they have money set aside if they need it, and then they can just move it out of the construction.
Right. I want to let Grady respond to anything that has been said, and then I'm going to bring up a point. Go ahead, Grady, if you have any input.
Well, I want to give an input on what someone said. That guy Raph said, here's a good question for the panel. What's the biggest problem the U.S. faces? Is it political or deep, aka spiritual? I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, obviously, spiritual is the root of, I think every single thing in this world is spiritual. But because, again, everyone has a motive, and that motive usually derives from something spiritual. So the APAC does it because it benefits their people the best, because that is their religion. They want to have more power. Am I going to sit here and say that immigration is the biggest problem in America? Yeah, I am going to say that. I'll say it's probably immigration, Israel, and the lack of a lack of mixing of hard work, loving your neighbor, and like slothfulness. I think those are a lot of common attributes of the common man in America and woman, because it's just everything's just so easy come, easy go. And if they can sit in a bubble, which is their house, and go on TV and watch Netflix series and live in those Netflix series, then they will do that instead of looking out in the real world and realizing they live in Somalistan, like Diamond was from Minnesota, so they can live in Minneapolis. Baby. Yeah, they can live in Minneapolis and live in a fantasy land and watch Netflix and act like they're in some little utopia. But when they go outside, it's just it doesn't look like Minnesota. And again, how many of those Somalians in Minneapolis came there legally on asylum? Right? I think we should close the asylum thing off only to people who are.
You want the statistics? I think it's about 80 to 85%.
Yeah, it's high.
It started in the 90s. It started in the 90s, right?
This hit when George Bush was in office. Like George Bush was notified of the fraud going on in Minnesota when it comes to Somalians. And even Mike Lindell is definitely a big like MAGA Trump guy, but even he was calling this out in the early 2000s. So I think it's very low hanging fruit for the right wing to sit here and now punch at the establishment to sit there and punch at the Somalians. You guys knew about it. You're just declaring war on it because everyone has a problem with immigration.
In the first place.
Yeah,
exactly.
Empathy kills. Empathy kills.
And this is the thing, because Grady brought up like the Somalian thing, like, and originally this is where kind of the culture clashes, is because the adults that came were well behaved. When I grew up, the children were not well behaved.
Interesting.
Because they are under the age of 18 and they knew very well they could not get in trouble and their actions would not affect their parents, right? And now those teenagers that I grew up with, that I went to high school with, they're adults now, and now they have kids, and those unbehaved kids I went to high school with, their kids are even worse. And that's why you see those gangs. That's why Mall of America went to shit, you guys. It wasn't in the 90s it went to shit. That was when it was great. It was Camp Snoopy. Everyone was happy, and it's fine. When I went to high school, and even now, you've got gangs of Somalis fighting each other outside Mall of America. You have did you guys know that in Brooklyn Park, as well as in Minneapolis, you can actually hear the call to prayer from the local mosque?
Oh my God, yeah.
You see what I'm talking about? No. No.
I literally went, so for those of you guys may have heard of the guy named George Floyd, right? You may have heard of him, right? So the owner of Cup Foods, where he was at, Mahmoud Underwire, I went to his mosque in Brooklyn Park, right, when I was in Wells Fargo, because I was studying halal finance. And like when we were driving there, they played the Islamic call to prayer. And that took me off guard.
Yep.
And I'm like, hold on a second. Wait a minute. What's going on here?
And you know what's funny is there's so many people out there, the liberals, that will bitch about a scripture being read in school. Hell, an example this week, Major League Baseball. I think it was the San Francisco Giants. There was this whole pride thing they were doing for Pride Night. But there were a couple of ball players that wanted to put scriptures on their caps.
Yeah. Right.
And they got blasted for it. Well, MLB came out, there was so much backlash from that. MLB came out and apologized for it and, fixed that situation. But there's American citizens who are okay with that happening to these ball players versus the freaking call to prayer being played in our cities. That shit stop.
Exactly.
Well, that's just and it's just,
before you go, Dave, I want to have a little fun here. So Grady, you met Dave, right? You guys met. He gave you a little introduction of who he is, right? So in my opinion, I've called him this before in a previous stream. Yeah, I said that he wasn't American. And that was the guy that I was referring to earlier in our interview. So, Grady, in your opinion, is Dave an American? I mean, he married a foreign woman. He lives in a foreign nation. He has assimilated and adopted the Hindu religion. In your opinion, is he still an American?
Hold on. What is Dave's ethnicity? Like, what is he? Is he a mix of
That's
anything?
where he's going to go. He's going to go with the ethnicity.
Dave, can you answer, Dave?
So I am predominantly white. So my mother and most of my family is Germanic and Scandinavian. My father's side, there's a lot of British and Germanic, but some of them did marry Indian, like Indian women.
So if your blood is over 80% descendant of European, then I would consider you an American. Sure. You marrying a foreign woman is not preferable, but that's your decision. If you want to, you're living in Mongolia right now, right?
No,
correct.
Exactly.
Do you want to know why I'm living in Mongolia?
Why are you living in a communist country?
So actually, well, here's the interesting thing. We have a lot more freedoms than I've seen in the US because lately, with the way America has gone, they have restricted everything to where some states will not allow you to collect rainwater. Whereas here, nomads have AK-47s, right? You can buy automatic weapons. Now, why I moved here, first of all, I want a country that I can raise a family in and have children that does not have moral debauchery. It does not have mass shootings. It does not have riots every other day. And it doesn't have basically the bureaucratic bullshit that America has turned into. Had things been different, I would have brought her to America. Like, had America been consistent, I would have stayed. But for the longest time, I would say from my early 20s, like years before we met, I was so dissatisfied with the way America was going. I mean, look at pride parades. There are naked men humping each other in front of kids on the street. How am I supposed to raise a family in that kind of society?
Okay, well, I would respond with the greatest example of men who fought for the freedoms and the best of their people and their nation is the founding fathers, to Americans anyway. I don't think running away from the problem is going to help. And I think if guys like me are 18 years old and in this movement and people are threatening to kill me already, people are threatening to rape and kill my entire family, and I'm still in this movement. I go out to these No Kings protests. People threaten to kill me. People shove me. I don't think that gives me an excuse to run away. And I do plan on having kids. But the problem is white people have lost the right to tribalize amongst their people. So white men often feel like they are alone in this fight against a degenerate society when they're a minority, right? The Southern Poverty Law Center, NAACP, ADL, the other people can have their groups, but white people cannot.
Correct.
Right. I think what we need to see is white people organized for more white men to feel more hopeful in the future of America. If white people can't organize, then how are we supposed to take back the country and the benefit of our people?
No, and I completely agree and understand with that. I actually used to be very much like you. I'm 37, right? And I've seen, and this could be a difference in. This could just be an experience difference because I saw the riots of Minneapolis firsthand. I saw the George Floyd thing firsthand. I've seen a lot of other things. The writing is on the wall. And while people do organize, going back to the question of whether it's political or spiritual, I would argue it's 100% spiritual. And I agree with that. I'm going to be honest. I made a judgment call because in my opinion, from my judgment, and I could be wrong, I don't see America the way it was coming back. I don't. Could I be wrong? 100%. And I will eat my words on this podcast if I am wrong. Ruby knows that. Jimmy knows that. That's why I do not see, even with Trump, right? Because after Trump, there needs to be a long-term plan. I don't see America coming back. I don't.
I do not see America coming back as it was. I see it coming back as something even better that we couldn't possibly even imagine.
Yep.
So it's kind of like with Watchtower. I told people back in 2019 that the Watchtower was going to go. It was going to change, and it wasn't going to be no more. It was going to it was going to fall. The Watchtower we knew in the 90s has fallen. It doesn't exist anymore. So on the political side of things, yes, we're not going back to the 80s and 90s, even though it'd be great because the 80s and 90s were freaking awesome. Y'all weren't there to experience it. Most of y'all weren't. So, but it was a freaking awesome time. But I think
it was great.
The control mechanisms that were in place and have been in place for so long that influenced our society, they're going away. And something else is going to come in. And I think we have a brighter future ahead of us in this country.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to the doom and gloom.
It'll get much worse.
I could see that. No, and I can see that. I could see that. I do. I'm going to fully admit to Grady, because I've admitted this on this channel, I have become very cynical, and I fully admit that has played a role in my worldview. I'm just going to say it, right? So that's part of why, like, I ended up being called, like, I don't know what it is now because all the pill color changes and stuff, but like what was originally called black pilled, right? Where it's like there's no point because corporations and foreign interests run everything, and regardless of what you do, you have super PACs and corporate lobbyists and, you know, backdoor deals being made that ultimately it's not worth it, right? And so I default personally to a survival mechanism, right? I need to survive by any means necessary.
Yeah, but it's about the tribe, in my opinion. Sorry, Ruby, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to let Grady respond to that, and then I'm going to respond. Go ahead, Grady.
Yeah, so again, it's about the tribe. I don't think we have to, because like when white people are collectivized, you have stuff like the British Empire, you have stuff like the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, that's what happens when white people are collectivized. We have to find our people and work. Like you have people, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Eric Arval, who started an all-white community out in Arkansas. Right now, he's being sued by a Jewish woman married to a black guy. But again, this is what happens. That's what's going to happen is you have Arval, who has 60 people, I think, living out in this land. You have groups like Patriot Front and Active Club who are being heavily documented on the CBS now for being the most active far-right scary club. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, the Black Panthers go out and chant they want to kill white people. And Patriot Front says, hey, we just want to have like a majority. We just want to have a white nation. We want to have a nation where our people can exist. Arval lives out in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas where there's no cell phone service, and he's getting attacked. And it's like, it doesn't matter if we run to the hills of Arkansas or we're in the city. We're going to be attacked either way. And it matters that we stay together as people of our tribe and work towards that. If you don't mind real quick, Raph asked a question. I can address it really quick. He said, I respect the opinion, but I disagree wholeheartedly with Grady and his view on what an American is. And I'm from Puerto Rico. Okay, I understand that. But if I moved to Puerto Rico and started claiming I was a Puerto Rican, who has the right to say I'm not a Puerto Rican? A Puerto Rican guy. Okay, I think
a real one, right?
Yeah, a real Puerto Rican. An American has the right to say who is and who is not an American. Again, that was
going to go real quick.
Yeah, we gotta pause on Grady right there because I gotta grill him on that one. Jimmy, you wanted to say something real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about the black pill thing, and this is what I was thinking about, because is it possible that the black pill is being used to destroy the motivation to keep people who honestly want to fight for this country and their values?
Yes.
Is it being used and propagated to destroy that motivation of those individuals?
Yes.
Because I will tell you, as somebody who's been in this movement for a while, wanting America back, I will not accept the black pill. It's not happening.
Right. Exactly.
The founding fathers didn't. James Monroe was 19 when he joined the revolution.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I, you know, to the people out there, the point I was going to make, to the people out there saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can really do. It's out of my control, blah, 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 blah. Well, you're doing the same thing that the Christians are doing, kind of on another aspect, to where, oh, no, we can't really do anything about the government. We're just going to wait on Jesus.
Exactly. No, which is why I reject that mentality as well. But you see, to Dave's point, he was so black-pilled that he got married and ran away instead of fighting.
I get that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in an offensive way. I'm just saying, like, that's how black-pilled we can get. Because I would love to do that too. I would love to pick up and leave and raise my kids in a country where it's majority my views, right? I totally get that. But you're never going to see change if you keep getting up and moving. We have to stay and fight for what we have right now, what we're standing on right now. You have to fight for it, and you're not going to say
well. And I mean, this was actually the point I was going to make earlier. So just Grady kind of understands the dynamic here, is because Ruby flat out said I wasn't American, and it's like, and I mean, that doesn't actually bother me, because I understand that America, like, what is an American? Well, it's more than a race. Right. Like if you were to ask, what is a Mongolian? What is an Indian? What is a Chinese person? Sure, you can look at skin color, you could look at race, but it's much deeper than that. It is a worldview, and it is a set of goals, and is a set of ideals. So even though, sure, I'm an American, I'm a U.S. citizen on paper, I'm a U.S. citizen born in America. Am I an American by definition of worldview? And I mean, even I could say, that doesn't offend me, because you can make the case that I'm not. That doesn't bother me.
And it's pretty strong too, because you're not even here.
Well, yeah, exactly. If I was here, there would be more of a debate.
Right.
But since I'm like in another country, then it's just like, oh, it's Dave. He just chimes in, you know. Well, someone's calling me Demon Dave in chat because I'm anti a specific race of people that has caused the world global problems and takes all of America's money, and you know, so
I don't know. I would still say that Dave is an American. I think just because you have different worldviews, if you get black pilled, if you have to move out, whatever you think, I think that is still a very big part of America. Like the founding fathers didn't agree on everything. That they actually, like Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, hated each other. So I don't think there is a set necessarily view of ideals that makes you an American. I think it's necessarily by blood, creed, and if you're a part of the
see, that's the disconnect we have there.
Which is why I'm thankful he's being very honest with us right now. Because here's the deal, right? You can have I don't call them African Americans, but a black person, right? And they could be more American with the worldview and just like their lineage. Let's say, if you wanted to go like DNA, they will be more of like native than probably me, because my lineage doesn't really come from this soil. It comes from Puerto Rico, right? We were taken, we were conquered. So that makes me an American. But to Grady's standards, it genetically speaking, I would have to find out what type of blood I have in me to see if I'm American. But I can say I'm more American than my liberal pink-haired neighbor who is voting to destroy this country where I'm trying to save it.
Yeah, see, sorry, Ruby.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I finished. Go ahead.
So if we want to drill down on that, I hope Grady comes back. So if we were to drill on, let's have some fun. So Grady said that Dave is an American based on his blood lineage, correct?
Right. Correct. Despite him not being in America, despite him marrying a foreign woman, despite being a Hindu, despite all of that, he is an American, according to Grady.
So,
I consider him
Grady, Dave is an American.
Someplace else, he's an American to me. I consider Dave an American.
Hang on, time out. So let me ask this question to Grady.
I consider myself really confused right now.
So Grady, our host Ruby, because of her blood lineage, would you consider her an American?
I don't know her blood lineage. So
what is that, Ruby?
Puerto Rican.
I'm Puerto Rican, but we're from the Taínos, which is like the darker native Puerto Ricans that half of my family is like dark, very dark skinned. And then my father's side is pure white, blue-eyed, blonde baby looking, white people. So I'm probably half and half. I'm more Spaniard.
There we go. Then I would say you're half and half.
Right. Half and half. Yep. That's fair to say.
But yet, hold on. This is the point. But yet her ideals and her convictions are way more American than some people who are actually white-blooded Americans.
Well, and I think that's kind of
deeper than idea.
What's that?
But I think the whole argument of what an American is deeper than just like your worldviews on things. You have to have that founding stock lineage of blood. A Mongolian can be a communist, or a Mongolian can be a Nazi, right? The fact of the matter is, if he has Mongolian DNA, he's from Asia. He was born in Mongolia. Like, there's many attributes. His parents and his grandparents and all these people are lineage from Mongolia. He's Mongolian no matter what he thinks politically. Like, Plato, like Nietzsche was a super black-pilled weirdo, right? Yeah. But he was still German. Just because he didn't obey by the time of German values and morals doesn't mean he was necessarily not German.
I agree.
Well, this is what I think is fun, because it seems like Ruby and Grady just put, like, I think there's a good discussion either way, but it seems like there's like a prior, like what the emphasis is. And it sounds like Grady puts it more on bloodline and Ruby puts it more on ideal. I'm not going to sit here and call myself an American. I will say I'm a U.S. citizen. Whether I'm an American or not, up for debate, right? But I think I would lean towards kind of what Grady was saying, just because ideas change, right? I mean, I even mentioned that earlier, like, you know, put me back when I graduated high school. I was very different, with very different worldviews than I have now, right? My thoughts and feelings were very different, and over the time they evolved, and over time they may change again. Ideas are kind of fickle things that change on external stimulus, but when it comes to like one's like bloodline, one's lineage, you are what you are. And as much as I want to,
right, because you can't really change that.
I mean, you know, and you know, that's something that I've had to just man up and accept. I have Christian bloodlines. I don't like it, but I can't change it because it's a reality of life, right? It is what it is.
But I also think too that after seeing the world come together with the World Cup, and there were so many people talking about, you know, if it wasn't for politicians, you know, the majority of the people would get along with each other. So
I disagree with that, but go ahead.
But what I would say that even though I understand Grady's viewpoint on what defines American for him, I think it's limiting. I think it's very limited.
Yes.
And you're not going to be, I mean, we all bleed red blood. We're all human. Sure. So even though you weren't born in America and you have African DNA or whatever, I think it limits what the country could be if these people are actually willing to assimilate to our country, make our country better. We have people in this country. We have people in this country from India who are great doctors. We have, you know, there's so many different foreign-born people that have come into America and made America great versus actual people that live in America. And what have they done? They ain't done shit, some of them.
Okay, so I need to quickly argue this. I'm sorry, Dave. So the whole thing with the idea, I don't want to slip my mind. If someone is living in Canada, and we all know how Canada is, and they have their ideals line up exactly with how American ideals are, does that make them an American?
No.
Okay, so they have to live in the country and have the exact same ideals.
So they're living in Canada, but they have American. If they're a Canadian citizen, they're Canadian.
Okay, so if they're Canadian, and since Canada is a very far left state and they're very far right, does that make that Canadian not Canadian?
If they're not, I mean, if they're not upholding, I don't know what Canadians' ideas are though.
Okay, so let's just
Canada's far left. Canada's far left. So you take Canada as a whole, is what Grady is saying.
Yeah.
And some in Alberta, who's Canadian, is to the right, who is Canada first because they exist. Does that make them not Canadian because they don't share the ideals of Canada?
Yeah, like Alberta wants to they want to succeed from Canada as a whole.
Right, but they're still Canadian.
That's where it kind of gets wishy-washy. This ideals of argument gets wishy-washy because it's like, okay, so that means that if during let's just say hypothetically, the entire country, Biden got 80 million votes, and the majority of the country supported Biden. We were a far left country. And that means people like us are not Americans anymore because we don't follow the majority idea of what America is.
I get what you're saying.
Right.
So this is where I'm kind of seeing this, like if Americans based off of what your ideas are can get changed off of the years of to come. Because again, what if my views and my hardcore views are the majority in 30 years? Then that means all of you guys aren't Americans.
I get that.
You got me on that one, Grady. You got me.
Hang on, guys. But these people that went to the far left and these 80 million, yeah, that's completely debatable. But anyway, these are people that drifted away from the original idea of America and are pushing something else and dressing it up as American.
Again, but I was making a hypothetical. I understand what you're saying, but I'm making a massive hypothetical that
I got
all of
you.
what could be an American can just flip flop around because
that
whoever
just
is
makes
the
them a
majority
traitor. That just makes them a traitor, Jimmy.
To Grady's point on what Jimmy was saying, I mean, yeah, there are people that come. Yeah, I mean, there are great doctors in India, and there are great, people that come from around the world. They contribute. They make America great. Cool, fantastic. But the question that's being discussed is, does that make them American? Because if you go to any other country, here, I'm always going to be an outsider. I could get a Mongolian passport, and I could show it to people, and people are like, yeah, you're still an outsider, bro. You're not,
Right.
Same with the Philippines, same with Japan, same with India, same with other countries. And so for me, I feel like it's like, that's why I lean more towards Grady's kind of argument.
I got a question for Grady.
You have to have some type of lineage in order to be considered that.
Okay, so I'm gonna say 2 to 3 things. I'm gonna concede, and I'm gonna say Grady got me on that one because when he was speaking, I totally agreed with him, even if it's to my own detriment. I would say, okay, Grady he has more of a right than I do. I'll go that far. I'll be fair. But let me ask you this, Grady. Let's say we do, in a hypothetical, conquer Canada and therefore they adopt our constitution. Are they all American?
The ones who are descendant of European descent, yes, because they can become, again, the Naturalization Act of 1790 says white men of good character. So if these white men of good character from Canada want to become American, then they can absolutely become an American.
And if they don't, and they basically become traitors to the Constitution and to American beliefs, but in your opinion, based on lineage and DNA, they could be if they wanted to, then what happens then?
Well, I think traitors should be tried for treason. So
and hung publicly.
Yeah.
Well, we know what the being tried for treason is. So yes, I would just say that. Yeah, I mean, Canadians can become Americans because they're descendants of the same people we are. We're very close. Americans are very close to the lineage of Canadians.
Okay, that helps clarify it for me. So, and like when you mentioned the territories, now what happens to them in your vocabulary? What would you call those people of the territories that are considered American and they can? Well, I don't think they can vote or anything like that. But let's say they are in the States and they can vote. They can, do majority of everything. What about the people in the islands that can't vote, that don't have representation, that don't have independence either?
Well, the reason they were made territories because they couldn't really become an American. I'm actually someone who thinks Hawaii shouldn't be a state. I think we screwed those people over. If you look at the history of Hawaii, we completely raped that whole tribe of people. So I think we should let them have their independence. Alaska made sense. Russia owned it. We bought it from them for like $3.8 million. So I think we should let Hawaii manifest their destiny. Let the Hawaiians manifest their destiny. Because what will be brought to them? Just a bunch of freaking corporate vacation rich people living out of the real world. They don't have a right to manifest their destiny anymore.
And the government set Maui on fire. I believe it was Maui, right?
Yeah, with the Hawaiians.
Yes.
Yeah, the government set Maui on fire. We all are aware of that, right? So yeah, we did kind of screw over Hawaii, right?
Yep.
So
yep. So you are in support of their Declaration of Independence then, right?
Yeah, I think they have every right to secede like every other state does.
Oh, whoa. That's too far. Sorry. We have to backtrack. So, yeah, I'm sorry. So the United States is because we are united. Okay, so in your opinion.
Are we united when it's forced?
Okay, they lost. How was that forced?
Because we fought a war over it.
And
we
were
forced to be united.
Yeah, but winners are winners and losers are losers. So if you lose, then
you're missing the point of united. We can't be if we're united.
I see
the
argument. I see the argument because Grady's argument is based on consent. united by consent.
Yeah,
but
but
I
that's
mean,
why there's a war, because they didn't.
You agree with me on Hawaiians?
Mm-hmm.
You agree with that Hawaiians? We destroyed them. We forced the Hawaiians to be a part of the United States of America, the same way the U.S. forced the Confederacy to be a part of the United States. So it's wrong for Hawaii, but it's not wrong for the Confederacy.
Okay, hold on. Let's rewind just a little bit here, okay? Because I'll just give you my perspective, right? So America is the whole United States under one constitution. You don't just get to write your own constitution, let's say if they became their own country, and rebel against the United States, all of us, where we all view one president, 3 branches of government, etc., right?
Okay.
You saying that it's forced, right? And I get that, but that's why there was a whole war over it. People died over it. And if you lost, you lost. You had to bend the knee. It would be a different story if they won. I would agree with you 1,000%. Yeah, they won the war, so they get the right to do what they please and become their own country, but they lost. So how can you still hold on to something when you lost?
Why is it acceptable for the Soviet Union to do the same thing? Because I mean, Russia's doing this. Russia's done the same thing historically. China has done the same thing historically. So why is it wrong for those?
Okay, hold on.
I would say it's not a good thing that we're forcing these people. If we believe that these people have a right to manifest their own destiny, if we believe that the states have the right to decide for themselves, which is the 10th Amendment, then we should believe that these states have a right to say we don't want to be a part of the United States. So if the United States is the land of the free until you disagree with us, and then we're going to force you into submission. Land of the free until these Hawaiians don't want to submit. So we burn them, we freaking pillage them, and we force them to be a part of the states. That's not the land of the free. That's not a country that's founded on good Christian morals. That's a country based on straight Antichrist. That's like what Israel does now. You don't want to be a part of the Holy Land? Well, guess what? Too bad. We're forcing you to be. People have the right to manifest their own destiny.
Well, and that's and to Grady's point, Ruby and I, we've had these discussions before because I've brought up kind of my lamentations, if you will, about how American society is, and I've advocated for use military force, like annihilate the liberals, right? And you disagreed with that because that's not a Christian value. That is force. That's something that China does. That's something that Russia does. It's the same principle. Just to go off of
but it's different because they already fought this war and lost. That's my point. So,
but it's not a good thing that the war was fought.
No,
that's my point.
I agree with you. It should have been dealt completely different, but it didn't. So what you're saying is, and I'm not like pointing fingers or trying to be offensive.
No,
I'm just saying the whole American dream, the whole American premise of everything that we believe in is that document. So what you're saying is the Confederate States went against that. And you're in support of that is what I'm trying to point out. Whereas I'm trying to say we should all be united on those principles and standards set by the Constitution and the 3 branches of government. They wanted to get out of that. So that's anti-American in my opinion.
It's not anti-American.
So let me step in for a second. So I went ahead and asked AI, does the Constitution give states the right to succeed? No. A U.S. state cannot legally secede from the United States. The U.S. Constitution provides no mechanism for a state to leave the Union. In fact, in the landmark 1869 case, Texas versus White, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the act admitting states to the Union created a perpetual and dissoluble relation. The court stated that there's no right to succeed unilaterally and that any separation could only happen through a successful revolution or the mutual consent of all other states.
Okay, so Texas Constitution, it says, Texas's Constitution literally says they can secede. And it's very important that again, people should have the right to manifest their own destiny. People should have the right to say, we don't want to do this. You say it's anti-American. What if they don't want to be a part of this United States of America led by Abraham Lincoln, which is destroying the South? That's the point. That's what the point I'm trying to make. Again, I want America to be a country. I'm not saying the South should just completely secede. What I'm saying is my biggest problem with this is the fact that it was forced upon people. We're not united if I'm being held up by my arms and my legs are broken. We're not united. I'm trying to pull away and you're saying, no, you're going to stay here. It's like forcing a dog. You can bring a horse to the water, but you can't force him to drink.
Yeah, when the federal government gets too big and starts imposing on the citizens' rights, I get that. You know,
Thomas Jefferson said something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
okay,
and that's the problem. And that's the problem, Ruby, that we have with America right now. Well, not since Trump's come in, because the size of government is shrinking drastically right now. But you bring in a large federal bureaucracy that's going to instill its will on the people, but yet disguise themselves as being American and upholding the Constitution. Then that's where you have an issue. That's where people we're like, yeah, F the federal government. They're not doing what we need them to do. They are violating our rights. So I want to speak out against that and push back against it.
And I totally get that, right? So, okay, let me ask you this, Grady. So let's say that does happen. Will you still call yourself an American? Because in my opinion, that wouldn't even be American anymore. You would be something completely different. You would become something, whatever you want to become. Is that fair to say? Or like, what would you respond to that?
Yeah, early in the panel, I described myself as a Southern American. I would describe myself now as a Southern American. Well, so, yeah, because we're still white people who are descendants from the founding stock of people who colonized the continent of North America, a Confederate States of America. You know what I'm saying? They were still Americans. They were just Southern Americans.
Right, but those founding fathers all agreed on the Declaration of their independence and the formation of the. Well, I'm just saying, like, that was the formation of it, right? That's what they called themselves, Americans. So let's say you succeed. You are no longer part of that. So why would you still call yourself an American?
Were they Americans before America was a country?
Well, they were natives. I mean, I don't think they would have called themselves that until way later, because they were immigrants from Britain. So in my opinion, they would have called themselves British.
Well, okay, so the American states were founded. They're still an American colony. You were part of the American colony. Therefore, you were American colonists. So even before America was a nation, they were still technically Americans.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And then the definition of what an American was later established in 1790. So again, I just think that the bottom line for me is people have a right to manifest their own destiny. That's why Texas in their constitution says, hey, we can leave at any time. So this is my hard-hitting point, is it should not be forced upon anyone to be united. The same way people will look at the situation in Russia and Ukraine and say the Ukrainians, maybe people say the Ukrainians shouldn't be united, but you could look at the church situation with the Russian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, with the split amongst the Ukrainian Orthodox churches, and people will say they have a right to leave or they have a right to stay. Okay, so some people will be okay with them manifesting their own destiny, and some people will not. And I think people should be able to manifest their own destiny.
Quick question. I want to make sure I get something right. Grady, did you say that Texas can legally secede from the United States?
It's in their constitution, yes.
Okay, so just real quick, this is what I found because I wanted to double check that. I asked, can Texas legally secede? No, Texas cannot legally secede from the United States. While the state has a unique history as an independent republic, neither the U.S. Constitution nor its annexation documents allow for it. The issue was permanently settled by the Civil War and the landmark 1869 Supreme Court case Texas v. White. The court ruled that the Constitution forms a perpetual union, making succession illegal and unconstitutional. So even though if it's in their Constitution, it doesn't matter, because there's no right for them to legally succeed from the United States.
Again, that is a problem in my opinion, because even if it is in their constitution, the Fed goes in and says, oh, it doesn't matter what your constitution says, which is taking away the right of a state to choose for themselves. And I think the state should have a right to choose. That's why Thomas Jefferson was so anti-federalist. The state should have the right to decide for themselves. And again, when you have cases like that, where Texas is being flooded with migrants, would you support Texas seceding if we're in the Biden era still, or like if Kamala won as president and millions more people are flooding into Texas? If Texas secedes, says, hey, we're done with you guys, we're shutting down our border and deporting millions of these illegals, would you support Texas?
Oh, if they shut down their borders and deport all them people, yeah, I would support that.
Again, is that not an American ideal? Because it is American ideal. If we're going to say that that's an American, we can go back to the Biden era. Biden was not following the American ideals.
No, he
What the
wasn't.
southern states and the red states were of saying, hey, we should deport these people. You guys have too much overreach on us. They weren't letting the states decide for themselves. So once you force a state into the union, you remove their ability to decide for themselves, which led to Texas being an open floodgate for millions of illegal criminals, making America worse. That's what happens when you remove that right for a state to decide for themselves.
And
Yeah, but
I think Minnesota should just be a part of Canada at this point. Just let Minnesota become a Canada.
And it just goes back, guys, in my opinion, it just goes back to the point where the federal government got too big and exerted its power derived from the elites, the deep state, exerted their power over Americans to destroy our Constitution. Because we talked about this in the first year, where we talked about the 16-year plan to destroy America. The whole idea was to have America defeated in a war. And as Ruby said, you know, hey, they won the war, they get to do what they want. This is what they were going to do. They were going to remove the Constitution if they could got away with it.
But that doesn't mean they could do whatever they want. So okay, so hold on, pause, because there's still a problem here for me. What Grady is kind of talking about and advocating for is the states' rights, the more power to the states. I get that. If you've seen me in season 2, I was all for that, right? But this is what I'm trying to say, is that you don't need to do that to accomplish what we want as Americans, because we already have laws. We just have to enforce them. And if the federal government is not doing that, then us as the people have the power to overthrow them and get the job done. And that's what the federal government as a whole.
Yeah, that's what the Constitution allows. When that government,
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not what Grady is saying. What he or correct me if I'm wrong, because what you're saying is that they should be able to remove themselves completely even from that and call themselves something else. And that's the problem that I'm having, is like, why would you still call yourself an American when you no longer are a part of the very first founding of what that means for us? Go ahead, Jimmy.
So going back to the South, going back to the Constitution, where it says, hey, the right of the people are, when the government gets too big and tyrannical, it is your duty to throw off that said government and replace it.
Not to succeed. It's our duty to overthrow them and get it done, not to succeed. The point is to be united in that value and to get the job done as Americans in total.
Okay,
that's very narrow. I think it's a very narrow idea. I don't think you're going to be able to just run it without seceding. Like Texas tried to secure their border, and Biden was threatening to send the National Guard down there to tear down the barbed wire.
And
so if you can't make decisions for themselves,
anyway, though, that just makes him look weak, in my opinion. So because he should have.
Yeah, but you're not going to have a weak government like Biden when someone like Mom Donnie were to get into the White House. He's going to put that socialist foot on your neck, that's when you can't abide by the federal rules.
To go over there and stop it. That's what I'm trying to say. And
so you're already going against the federal government rules. You might as well just go the extra mile and secede. And then once we take it back, then we establish it under the true Constitution that is not socialist. We establish under the old one. In order to do that, we have to secede, because then we're going to get jammed up in courts. We're going to get jammed up with the Army and the National Guard situation. Because again, let's go take it back with who? Who are you going to use? The National Guard?
But the Constitution is the law of the land, so we don't need to do all of that.
Why? Why not?
Because it already provides that to happen. It just hasn't happened correctly, in my opinion, which is why J6 got everybody in a chokehold, because they were calling that an insurrection when it really wasn't.
It wasn't.
They were just fear-mongering people. But if we did it the right way, that the Constitution allows us to do it, I really, truly think we can get it done. We just got to be serious about it.
The states have to mobilize, though.
Thank you. Yes, mobilize, not succeed.
Mobilize who? Mobilize who?
Militias, like Kyle Rittenhouse types. Like, we need to band together and make a plan.
Where are they?
We don't have the right to make militias. Hold on, we don't have the right. After James Madison became president, he removed that. After the War of 1812, we disbanded all of our militias and became one army. So that means we have to start wholly from scratch. This is why I'm saying, if the states just had a right to choose for themselves, we would have militias right now being able to defend our borders, being able to stand up to a tyrannical government. But now that we let ourselves be united and happy in this one little communist utopia, it's we have to band together. We have to band together.
I will agree with Grady on this.
I see where Grady's going.
We have to make a whole new militia. From who? The National Guard isn't going to be half the National Guard wouldn't do what we want them to do.
I'm gonna have to look into all those claims that he just made, because I don't know that for sure in every state about the whole militia thing. But to that point, I'll run with it. Jimmy, you are of the position that the military does and has done something, but behind closed doors in the background, that we're just waiting to see the fallout. Where I disagree, because I don't believe in that. But let me run with both of you on this. So if it is that this whole, uniting of the whole military, wouldn't it be the military that's supposed to come in and fix things and go back to the, how we're supposed to be? Because that's what you believe, Jimmy?
That sounds fine and dandy until it's against you, though.
The military, remember, the military came before the United States Constitution. The military was established to protect America. Then when the Revolutionary War was done, the military gave back the power to the people by establishing the United States of America. So the military has every right to do what they need to do to protect the Constitution and work within the framework of the rule of law, regardless of whatever the politicians say.
Right, and where are they? So they see this anarchy happening on the mainland, and what's being done about that?
You're seeing what the media shows you.
Okay. Grady, would you care to respond if you want?
I would say that there's a little bit of a misconception that we could just mobilize people, because half the National Guard is going to return home to their families. If it got that bad to where we have to freaking mobilize a militia and go to DC, then you're talking about police officers not even going to work. You're talking about them staying home with their families and holding their firearms tight. The same thing with National Guardsmen and any type of state law enforcement. It's not going to be this thing. That's why it's so important to have militiamen on the ready. So who are you expecting to show up? The Oath Keepers? I mean, you're not going to have these guys show up in massive waves to run to go to the Capitol.
Well, to Grady's point, I saw this firsthand with the Floyd riots, is because the National Guard was deployed, but a lot of them left. A lot of people don't know that, but a lot of them are like, look, I don't want to be here. These are fellow Minnesotans. I don't want to have to risk shooting people that live in my state. Like, there was a problem deploying the National Guard for like a citywide riot just on that basis. So to Grady's point,
well, you got people in the Sorry, Dave.
To Grady's point, it's like, sure, who are you going to mobilize? Because the military does have that obligation, but at the end of the day, the military is comprised of human beings that make judgment calls. Some of them will show up 100%, and some of them will do what, I'm sure I take Jimmy at his word here, that some of them are doing what Jimmy says he does. But there are going to be many others where, like, there was an entire, I forget which platoon it was, an entire platoon was mobilized to go to Minneapolis. None of them showed up. None of them reported. And that wasn't in the news, right? So if you have National Guard units that are just going AWOL for God knows what reason,
Okay, so before I respond, Gail, would you like to add anything?
Me? Yeah, I want to add something. It's a personal thing with my own aunt. She's a Canadian citizen. She's not a U.S. citizen, and she's retired. I see Grady's rolling his eyes.
No, I was just thinking what you're saying.
Well, she's retired, right? She gets a really nice pension, and all she does is put down America and Trump. This is what I said to her. I said, if it's so bad here, go back to Canada if you don't like it here. I says, I'm sick of you complaining about America. You're not an American citizen, number one. You've been here since you were a teenager. She's now in her 70s. And you've got a great pension thanks to the government. So I'm just saying that. And my grandfather was born in Canada. My great-grandfather came from Italy. Do I consider them Americans? Yeah, they became American citizens. You don't have to be born here to become an American citizen. And I'll tell you one thing. I hate this country. I know it sounds, I'll tell you, I hate this country for a lot of reasons. I know that's a pretty hard statement to make. After all the stuff I'm reviewing and researching, the shit I found out what the Americans did to their own population, I really don't have any respect for this country. I want to move out of here. As soon as I get my settlement, I want to move to either to Ireland or Spain. I want to get the hell out of here because of how they're treating the people, what they're doing to our environment. And I'm not prejudiced or biased. I was brought up to love everybody, but I don't like what they're doing in this country. They lie. And what I'm going to present tonight, after I'm doing the orphan trainings, the stuff I've uncovered about this wonderful American country makes me want to vomit, all because they're wealthy, asshole, elite people who still run the show. They don't give a shit about us, Grady. They don't.
I mean, I agree. I don't think
I'm
the government does
75
care.
years old. I'll be 76 on the 4th of July. I wasn't brought up this way. We were a very loving community back in the 60s and 70s. I don't know what the hell happened in the past 15 years, but it's gone, it's gone in a direction that I don't like, and I'm sure all Americans feel this. Most of my friends feel the same way. I'm not going to hate the president or anything else like that, but I hate the country because they're not doing anything to better American people, to better our children, do something about the drug problem, about our environment, about the homeless problem. The homeless problem is out of control. And a lot of it's because the migrants have no place to go. They thought they were coming in here for a good deal. And what happened? They've got no place to live. They're living in communities all over the country. So they don't care about us people. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I'm on a rant and raving because I wasn't brought up this way. Everybody got along. I grew up in a Catholic Italian neighborhood, and we all got along.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I'm not prejudiced. I don't
Thank you. Thank you, by the way, because you've kind of expressed what I'm feeling. The only difference with me is I don't hate the country, because when I think of America, the country, I think of the people. Even people in the
it's the government.
Well, it's more than just the government, but for me, when I think of the country, I think of the people in the chat, even people who don't like me or who disagree with me, like, they are good people. The American country has good people in it. I hate aspects of modern day America.
Right.
Thank you.
I hate certain aspects of the modern day, and the government is definitely one of them. But there's also social aspects I hate about the government. There are financial aspects that we could do an entire show on that I hate about America.
Exactly.
Right, but it's not the country that I hate.
Right, because we could fix this up in real quick if we really wanted to. If we were a serious country, we can fix it, which is my thing. Real quick, Grady, do you want to add anything before I go back to my point?
She said something about, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said something about they're Americans, they have American citizenship. Does that make someone an American just because they have American citizenship?
Yeah, because they're decent people. Yeah, my grandfather was a wonderful, decent man, and so wasn't my great grandfather. Yeah.
Okay, but again,
you're for a better life.
They kind of qualified for the for the means to be an American. I agree with. I don't think that just because I have a passport to somewhere that let's say you're moving to Spain. If you become a citizen of Spain, that doesn't make you Spanish.
Right.
That's beside the point. What ethnic background you are. I mean, America was founded on a lot of people coming in this country through Ellis Island. Does that make them not Americans because they wanted to come here and have a better life?
No,
and
because they were
Does that make them not American?
They were white men of good character.
I'm a descendant of my Italian grandfather. Does that make me not an American because I was born here and raised here?
No, because he was a white man of good character.
Right.
Well, he built a lot of buildings while he was here with his own two hands. He was a quarry quartz builder. And my grandfather, he was a shipbuilder. So he contributed to society.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I said he was a white man of good character. I think that, again, according to the Naturalization Act, only people from European descent can become Americans.
Right. Right, according to you. Now, back to the other point that I want to drive it back. So you said, Grady, well, who are we gonna call? And basically you're saying like that's not possible to get done today to overthrow the federal government and let's say restore our American society. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen within a span of a few days now.
No, I'm not giving a time limit. I'm just saying like the whole premise of the idea of doing what needs to be done, doing what the Constitution allows us to do without the fear of, I guess, retaliation or jail or death, right? Because we're Americans. We were literally brought with that blood, right? People died for us to have our independence. So why wouldn't we do that again, even if it's our own government?
Because we've become a weak society of people who live vicariously on the news.
Exactly. But let's say we got the right people, we got the right equipment, we have everything we need to do that. Can that be done in your opinion?
It depends who the leader is. We're gonna need some. Okay. We're gonna end up being a bunch of people holding a gun, and then everyone's looking around. Okay, who's gonna lead this charge? Someone's got to stand up, and it's not gonna be the people who you would imagine. I think they're gonna go back to their families.
Well, and to Grady's point, I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't see even just a revolution just as like someone holding a gun. I think it could also be a culture or social revolution. My only concern is, I mean, there's a long list of people who claim to be America first, but ended up being sellouts. Right. And so my concern, and part of the reason why I don't think there's going to be any change, is because I'm seeing a lot of people claim to be American first, right? You can say it, but because I'm a content creator myself and I see politics of other countries, they're doing the exact same things people who are getting ready to sell out do. They're building a following, they've got all the taglines, and it's, I mean, I would argue Candace Owens is one of them, right? There's debate about Tucker Carlson and all these other people. And there's some other younger ones that are coming up that are even Grady's age, right? Right. It's like all it takes is a check, one large paycheck, and they will flip. And it looks like they're waiting for it. So that's my concern when it comes to like people who are wanting a social cultural revolution, is because forget the guys with the guns who may or may not show up. There's no guarantee that the people pushing the social cultural revolution are not sellouts waiting to happen.
Well, I would like to add something to that. It's like, you're going to convince people to go all the way to DC. You know what you could convince them easily, much easier at least, is to go to their own state capital.
Right.
Again, the federal government could put anything in power, but it also relies on the state to enforce it. And if our states are enforcing that, it's much easier to walk on the state capital than it is to walk on DC.
Right.
That's why I think it's just it just makes more sense to me if we wanted to have more of a revolution for the states to just secede.
Oh hell no! So hold on.
Isn't that treason though? I have a legitimate question. I have a legitimate question because on the one hand, I see the logic and the concept of consent, but on the other hand, isn't that by definition treason?
Right.
We're gonna have treasonous people. We're going to have treasonous people who have ripped the Constitution tell us we're treasonous for telling them to obey the Constitution.
He's right. No, he's right on that point.
I get that. I'm just kind of wondering how that would play out practically.
It wouldn't. People are gonna die either way. That's why
nothing is going to come out easy. This is gonna be awful. Also, I just gotta say real quick, I love how like every few minutes Jimmy will go like, well, actually this is not true, and then go, wait, actually no, he's right on that. It's so funny, dude.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that I can find things to agree with you on.
I just think it's funny. Like, hold on, well, ChatGPT said this, and then I make a Reddit post like, you know what? No, he is right on that now, because it's But yeah,
I think on this panel we genuinely it seems like we generally agree on things. We generally agree on things. It's just the methodology might be different, or the perspective might be different.
Exactly, because hold on, I have to point out the double standard here. So just what Grady just said is no different than what we just called out Dave on when he fled instead of fighting. That's exactly what Grady is talking about, that they should flee and succeed than rather stay and fight for their country of the United States. But go ahead, respond, Grady.
But if I'm not American, what, Ruby, wait, if you don't see me as an American, then if I'm not American, then I have no obligation to fight for a country.
But you already left. You should have stayed and fought for your country. You didn't. You left. So you don't.
But I wasn't American by your own definition.
No. You're not American now. You were American and you left it. That's the point.
How was I American when I was Hindu before I left?
That has nothing to do with religion. With the whole conversation that we ever had about what an American is, did we bring up religion? Not really. When it came to being an American, I never said.
Well, we did talk about worldview. We did talk about worldview, and we.
Yeah, sure, but I don't really care what religion you are in that scenario. The religion really doesn't matter. Religion does matter, but not right there. The double standard is that when we said, well, yeah, the argument for you is, well, you married a foreign woman, you left, etc., right? You have no part in American politics, conversation, or anything because you're not even here. You don't even live here anymore. That's when I said that doesn't make you an American. And that's what Grady is describing, but on a higher scale, because he's saying, well, I think that's a great idea, but we should just leave. We should just succeed and not be united anymore. That's just the double standard that I wanted to bring up. So we gotta be consistent. But go ahead, Grady.
Because if we're a nation united on ideals and those ideas have been completely warped and skewed, and the people who hold the traditional ideals are now on the back foot, those people, it's best for them to run back to a defensive position than go to march on DC.
But you can fix that, because if it's an ideology type of thing, you can do re-education camps, you can do propaganda, like you can fix that. But what you're saying is basically we should just flee. We should just leave, become our own nation, our own country, and leave the North and the rest of you people to defend and fight for yourselves rather than staying and fighting for your country as United States. Does that make sense?
But we're not United States. That's where you're kind of getting this messed up.
We are right now. For argument's sake, we are right now.
Just because we're a country doesn't mean we're united. You think California enjoys working with Florida?
No.
But the people, the majority of the people there, we're not that much different.
See this? So this is the thing. What you just said, Ruby.
Yep.
Yes, the majority of Americans are united.
Exactly.
Right. The majority, the regular everyday American, is united.
Right.
It is the system that has infiltrated, as Grady said, tore up the Constitution and put their own spin on things that has been controlling us.
And we can fix that without succeeding. That's just my point. I
agree. Yes, we can fix that, and it's being done without without a state having to succeed. Mm-hmm. So it can be done that way, and it's being done that way.
Well, I just think that instead of taking an offensive, and you say flee like we're like digging up the borderline and pushing ourselves out into the ocean. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, we're not. We're just holding a defensive position in our states. And that's what we must do to combat the federal overreach.
But we can all do that together. That's my point. We can all do that together because we agree more than we disagree, though, because the people would be behind you because the majority, the silent majority, they're just silent. But imagine if they weren't. We agree more than we disagree. And
the people will be defending their family and their homes. They're not going to be willing to march on. Like, you might get 1 in 10 people willing to march on DC if you're lucky.
If you're going, if you think about this, the Russian I think it was the Russian president back in the 50s or whatever, said that they could come in and take over the United States without firing a single shot.
Right.
And that's, and please forgive me on who I said that, but it has been said.
Nikita Khrushchev.
Thank you. And so that is what's happened over the last 60 to 80 years. Mm-hmm. We have been infiltrated by a system that doesn't love the American values, doesn't love the Constitution. And this system is not just based in Washington. Right. So you can't conjure up a bunch of people to go march on Washington to get rid of this system, because this system spreads out to where? Britain. the Vatican,
Bank of London,
Lloyd's
everywhere
Bank.
else. So even if you were to grab a huge militia and go to Washington, you're not going to accomplish anything except loss of life.
Right.
That's why we should secede.
No, because
Wait,
because
do
now
you secede from Lloyd's Bank? I'd agree with that. Like,
there's gonna be a war
British
either way, though.
We make our own state bank. We make our own state militias. We are the great state of Florida. And then, hey, then we're winning. And again, I think people would choose to suffer a little bit when it comes to economic wise if we're away from the mass infiltration that comes from every other area that does not love us.
And why can't we do that together? Why can't we suffer like that together? For
Oh,
the
we
greater
are,
good
we,
of
are,
America?
we are kind of suffering like all together. If you think about the gas prices,
Yeah, but we're suffering with no change. That's the problem.
the change is, and I know you don't want to go past the
what?
border.
Is
that Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon to be able to destroy us at their whim. So I'm okay. I'm okay with paying $3.50 a gas if I know that my grandkids don't have to face a nuclear Iran.
Well, hold on, Jimmy. That was like a left field for me because I don't care about like geopolitics. I know,
but that's the problem, Ruby. This thing is
hold up a
worldwide.
second.
It is worldwide.
No.
It is worldwide. You can't.
It is
be
worldwide.
You can't be so focused on just America. It goes past that.
Okay. I understand that, but hold on. To my comment, I said we are suffering, but without any change. Jimmy, can you please answer to me again because that answer is insufficient for me. How are we still suffering, and we still don't have any change? What's the solution?
Right. Give me a thing of suffering. Give me an example of
hashtag end the Fed. There's your answer.
And we agree
end the Federal Reserve, and it all goes away.
Change. So we're suffering, Jimmy. We are suffering financially. We are suffering in our society. Our children are suffering in indoctrination public school camps. Okay. We're suffering with the leftist, Marxist, communist mentality, socialist, the list goes on. We're suffering with that. And all of that is un-American. All of that is not patriotic. We're not even teaching our kids to have that sort of nationalism, which people that had that before. We didn't have those issues, but now we have it. So we're suffering without any change. So what
do you know how much worse it would have been for Americans back in 2016 if Hillary Clinton would have gotten office?
I agree. Same thing with Kamala.
Yeah. Same thing. A lot of us probably wouldn't be here to be able to have this discussion right now.
Exactly. Right.
But they still censor us. They still shadow ban us. They still do a lot of things. We're still suffering. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is that suffering could have been 100 times worse than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
So everything you're seeing right now is being propagated by the mainstream media because they're still trying to push their agenda. But behind the scenes and amongst America, we're so sick of the shit that they've been pushing.
Right.
So we are getting better and getting rid of those ideas. So yes,
I think
you know what I'm saying. We're suffering a little bit at the gas pump. There's school systems that the parents are fighting against these school systems now. They weren't doing that before. People are pushing back on things.
Right.
Which they weren't doing that before.
Right.
So we are healing. We are winning. The problem I think that you have, respectfully, is it's not going fast enough.
Yeah, that's
to Ruby's point. To Ruby's point, this suffering shouldn't have happened in the first place. And
I agree.
It would not have happened because the Federal Reserve is actually the cause of this. And if you look at you look at the petrodollar being used by all the countries, that's a double-edged sword because if other countries' economies go to shit, that's going to impact the U.S. dollar, right? And foreign trade is going to have impact the U.S. dollar. America was the strongest economically in world history when it was on the gold standard.
Correct.
And other economies did not affect it. So the problem of suffering Right. And this is where I would maybe disagree just with how it's done. I would say you don't invoke change in Washington, D.C. You get rid of the Federal Reserve and go back to the gold standard and get rid of the petrodollar, because then the WEF has no impact. Foreign currencies have no impact. And the USD is not on Forex exchanges and therefore is unaffected by whatever happens in I don't know, Azerbaijan, right? Right. Yeah, that's how you solve all the problems. You get the British bank out, you get the globalists out, you do all of that in one shot, and the Fed, the end.
And that's why marching on DC isn't going to solve that. It's got to be bigger than that.
Right.
Statewide secession.
I'm sorry. Don't you think this week, with the celebration of our 250th anniversary, I think patriotism, what I'm seeing is coming back slowly, and a lot of people are gearing up for the celebrations this week, and especially with all the soccer players here and the wonderful feedback they're giving about America. I see a lot of people are excited about this week, and I'm glad to see it, because my birthday's the 4th of July, so I'll be glad to see it.
Yes, I know. Happy birthday.
I think patriotism is at an all-time high, at least over in the last 15, 20 years.
For me, it's like, yeah, we can be patriotic for one day, but we cannot forget that our country is just in the can. It's in the can, and it's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. And I don't want to say it outright, but light poles are going to be decorated with a lot of treasonous people in order to get
that's probably I'm sure they're banking on that's going to happen with the protesters trying to ruin it for everybody. But we have to have each one of us has to have a positive attitude. What are we doing? Are we going to sit by and be complacent and fear-mongered? Are we going to do something and stand up and fight for our country and do what's right? And the thing that scares me is the socialism and the Muslims in this country.
Yeah,
especially what Dami was saying the other day, and this crazy woman who's running for mayor in DC, she wants to defund the police and get rid of prisons. I mean, this ideology of these crazy people, they've got to go. I don't care how they go, but they've got to go. I hope everybody, like, where the hell's the Angels and the KKK when you need them? I'm sorry.
Jesus. Great. We're going to get a strike now, Gigi.
Well, the thing is, again, like, have people like
some humor.
The Klan used to be very militant and taking care of communities, and now they've been completely infiltrated by meth heads. So,
okay,
I'm staying out of that one, because I say some pretty controversial things, but I'm staying out of that one.
It's gotten too late.
I apologize, but my cousin.
It's almost 12 o'clock here.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll say this last thing, and I'll just digress. You can't save your country if you're not here, and if you're not awake to the troubles and the sufferings and grievances of the entire country. You're not going to fix it if you can't come together and start changing the narrative. That's the problem. Is because the propaganda and the indoctrination, a lot of people are misled. We just have to fix that by re-educating them, and I think it's possible. And if they don't like it, they can leave. But we already have things in place to fix it. I feel, and Jimmy knows this, that all of the problems that we see today are manufactured because they let the ball fall instead of enforcing everything that is already in existence. If the judges would have done their jobs, if the police would have done their jobs, if regular people would do their civic duties and be just a good person in general, that's the problem. Our society is a degenerate society. Men have left the home. Men have failed our society. And then the women failed their families, they failed their children. They don't even marriage. What is that? You see the whole that whole manosphere is toxic, and it just ruins the family home, which ruins the society, and government takes advantage of that. Where in my mind, we can fix all that. We can fix the home. We can fix the society. We can fix the television. We could fix the radio. We can fix all of that. And overnight, I truly believe you can fix the mindset and the thinking of people, and we will become patriotic again. We will have
the only way you're going to do the only way you're going to do that, Ruby, is to get rid of the puppet masters.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to do that. Get rid of the Fed, like you, Dave, and that's the only. I'm telling you right now. You got to get rid. You got to get rid of the criminals that have been running the system.
Okay, sure, right? In a paradise, that's great, but there's always going to be a puppet there. In my opinion, you don't just get rid of one puppet, another one is going to come in. But we need to
hold on.
Puppet.
That's why you destroy the whole system.
But hold on. Whoa. But in your paradise, we all march on DC, right?
I never said that. I never said that.
To be fair, Ruby never said that.
Okay,
I never said that.
So are you okay with taking back the nation? What does taking back the nation look like? It's not going to be peaceful.
I just described it. We take back the house. We take back the family. We take back marriages. We take back laws that already exist.
So
like
many people are going to have to swing for that to happen.
Sorry, say that again.
So many people are going to have to swing for that to happen, though. Like, it's actively pushing it. It's never like when it comes from media, when it comes from public society. It's grained into our society. Hey, go on a college girls trip to Miami. That's like the big push right now. You're not going to.
There's already laws in place. You just got to enforce that. You can't be a slut anymore. There's laws for that. You can't kiss and have PDA in the street. There's laws for that. You can't divorce your husband. No more no-fault divorces. Like we can fix that. That's fixable.
It's just hard to enforce these laws, though, because when you have like illegals setting people setting girls on fire on trains, like the police are just slammed right now with stuff because they're either trying to deal with something like that or they're trying to see how they're not going to be
that's why we got
racist.
the military. We should open them up to the states and bring them in to help the police. It's very easy.
I agree.
We're the United States of America. We are the world empire. We are making stuff up. We're making our own problems is what I'm saying. And then we're acting as if we don't have the resources to fix it. Yes, we can. We need to bring everybody back home and fix home. Bring all the money and everything.
And to Dave, come back home.
No, I mean to come back home. Well, Ruby would have me executed, right? Probably. No, I'm just
publicly hung.
Yeah, I know, right?
Put you in a re-education camp.
I know, right? Well, to Ruby's point, I just want to back Ruby here for Grady. To Ruby's point, she already addressed that because Grady said so many people have to swing, but if you enforce even like he was saying, television, radio, internet, influencers, those shape public opinion. Right. There's a reason why if you come here or go to many other countries around the world, you will not find advertisements with women in bikinis because that's a negative influence, right? Countries are very, very strict about what they let their population and especially what they let their children see. So to Ruby's point, if you fix the social aspect, if you demonstrate what is allowed and not allowed, like PDA in public, or if TV shows, radio, if you bring back that decency, the culture will shift along with it.
It will fix itself, right?
Yeah, you can. Point. So you boycott. You have to boycott all these companies who push this. You would have to completely drop any type of media because it's ran by the same people.
No, you don't have to do a boycott. You don't have to do a boycott. If you go on right now, and I'm sure you're aware of this because you're young, but there are people your age that are getting hundreds of thousands of followers because they're your age and they're promoting decency. They're not boycotting. You don't need to do a boycott. You just need to. This is what I've noticed, and I'm going to get yelled at, but this is what I see. The problem is with Christians in America today. We constantly hear what Christians are against, but we never see what they're for. And
that's a good point.
And the biggest thing that I see is if like Christians like Ruby, you and like other people were to stop going on about what, not just you guys in general, but just in general, like if Christians in general were to stop ranting about what they're against and actually start like promoting what values they are for, that'll make the difference. You don't need to do a boycott.
Yeah,
I still would prefer to do a boycott of all fast food places that are just complete slop. Like if we just boycotted every fast food place, I think it has to be like a multi-scale, because if people want to have a good society,
it worked against Budweiser.
Well.
Well, for sure.
Bud Light, it worked against Bud Light. You just boycott these people; they'll get right back in line. Like you're telling me, Steak and Shake and freaking Steak and Shake can make a burger, 100% grass-fed beef tower fries, and a soda for $9. McDonald's is selling that same thing for $15 or $13. Wow. Dude, you boycott these people and just say, no, we're not going to go to your place anymore because you're selling us stuff that's going to give us cancer at 58. Dude, we win. Easy win. And maybe we might let you back in. That has to be the narrative. We might let you back into the light, to your original glory. But you poisoned us for years without any sympathy for the common man. You were purposely
and we could fix that too.
Us.
We could fix that with basic laws, like the FDA stuff, and we can fix our food. We can.
RFK has done good there. I understand. RFK has done good there.
I want to go to a point here that I see in the chat by Rod. It said, "Teach home economics. People can't cook anymore." So,
that's true.
So again, think about it. That's another planned thing, another thing that they did to push propaganda to us. Let's not put home economics in school anymore, so these kids don't learn how to cook, so that we can push them into these fast food restaurants and we can poison them.
Or finance people. Basic banking. Basic banking.
Yeah, to answer the question earlier, is this political or spiritual battle? It's a freaking spiritual battle.
Yes.
And morals.
I agree.
Moral battle. Do you want me to present, or do you want to forget it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do it. I mean, this show went pretty good, but it did go long, and we're gonna have to save Leonard and Gail's presentation for next Tuesday. I wasn't expecting this to go as long as it did, but
I don't think anybody in the chat did either.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's almost midnight, so I was gonna do final thoughts for everybody, because we usually end the stream.
Well, can we do the baby incubators? It's only like 10 minutes. It's a different going on a different angle.
I am going to sign off. I really appreciate I have to get to
bed. Good night, Grady.
But I really appreciate on the show.
Hey, Grady,
what's up?
Before you take off, hook up with Ruby. Have Ruby give you my phone number. So the next time you come up into the area, we'll go grab a bite to eat.
That sounds freaking great. I should be up there late July. I'll let you know.
That'd be cool.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. I'll talk to you sometime soon.
Yeah,
good to meet you. It was great to meet you.
Okay. Yeah. So 10 minutes. If you want to, if everybody wants to, let me know. Gail can present. That was really cool. That was really nice that we got as far as we did, because I was not sure how far he was gonna go, but
that was a fun conversation.
Yeah,
that was a good convo. He seems cool.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, Gail, go ahead. If you want to present, share your screen or anything, you got the floor.
They're two very short videos, but before we show them, I'm just gonna say these are baby incubators, if you can believe that. They were used in
hold on, Gail. So before you start, do you want me to give the intro? You want me to play the intro, or do you want to just jump right into it?
What intro?
Yeah, just jump right into it, because we're
okay. Fine. Go ahead.
We're going to show two very short videos, I guess, videos. And what you're going to see, it's hard to believe that it took place. Babies in incubators. They were used on sideshows at world fairs, and they charged everybody 25 cents to go in and look at these babies. And actually, even though it's kind of morbid that people were doing this and looking at babies, the thought of the incubators today saved a lot of infants' lives. And these infants, these premature babies were born to women who couldn't afford, and the hospitals wouldn't pay for them anyway. And a lot of the women couldn't afford the hospital care for their babies. So this doctor, and it'll describe itself when Jimmy shows the first one, and then we're going to see the second one. Mm-hmm. It's 3 minutes long, and I think the other one's like 2 minutes long.
All right, what you want to do, the fake children one first?
The fake children, yes.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Just be prepared, everybody.
Share screen. Share screen. Fake babies.
Is that like IVF?
Do what?
Well, I'll let the video play and then I'll ask questions later. Go ahead.
Baby show. You pay a few cents, walk through a carnival tent, and see Rose. All right, guys, came across something weird. So tell me why in the early 1900s they were literally putting premature babies in glass at fairs and at carnivals and charging people to come see them. They even called it the incubator baby show. You pay a few cents, walk through a carnival tent, and see rows of newborns hooked to machines. Sounds like a horror movie, but this really happened. So this guy, Stéphane Tarnier, he saw some chicken eggs in an incubator in Paris, and he decided the same thing would work for babies. So he invents the first ever human incubator. Apparently his design had some flaws. It would overheat, it wasn't sterile, it wasn't stable, etc. So this man comes along, Alexandre Léon, who makes some improvements to Tarnier's design, and he actually ends up running the first baby incubator exhibits in Paris, France. There's an advertisement. And yeah, he was charging people to come see his incubators in use. So fast forward a few years, and this man, Martin Cooney, pops up. He says he studied medicine in Germany, but there were literally no records or any evidence of any kind that he did so. As a matter of fact, he changed his name to Cooney. So anyway, he came over and just kind of Americanized the hustle. So Cooney's first exhibit is believed to have been at Omaha in 1898 at the exposition there. There were rows of glass boxes of premature babies. Tickets were sold, and you'd be allowed to walk through and look at them. Hospitals didn't have incubators yet, but a man at a carnival did. Pretty weird. Then comes Dreamland, Coney Island, where Cooney ran exhibits from 1904 to 1911. People would line up by the thousands and pay dime to see struggling newborns inside these machines. It became the hottest attraction on the boardwalk. And just as its popularity peaked, boom, the Dreamland fire. Opening day, 1911. Supposedly a worker spilled hot tar on a ride called Hell's Gate, convenient, and the whole park burns down. Everything was damaged. Most of the structures were gone. Everything was, except for the babies somehow. Take a look at these pictures I dug up. Boy, that tar sure created some fire, huh? And here's where it gets even sketchier. The incubator craze phases out, just disappears after that. No more exhibits, no more records. Meanwhile, the orphan train movement kicks into high gear, where over 200,000 kids were shipped across the country, most with no traceable paperwork, no birth records, and no history. So you've got one massive system of unrecorded infants and another moving unrecorded children. I mean, if you wanted to quickly repopulate or rewrite an entire generation's origin story, this is exactly how and when they did it. Official history calls this charity, but between Cooney's fake credentials, missing archives from Omaha, Chicago, Coney Island, the fires, start seeing a pattern. When the spotlight got too big, the evidence disappeared. Who were these children? Where did they come from? Who and where were their parents? Ironically, decades later, we get the Cabbage Patch Kids. Dolls that aren't born, they're adopted. Little toy babies pulled out of fake hospitals with nurses, incubators, and adoption papers. They always have to show us what they are doing or celebrate what they have done. Never forget. Peace out, y'all.
Well, then we'll show the next one. Can we show the next one, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some questions. That's weird.
It is weird. This is all connected to the orphan trains. It's something unbelievable.
Early 1900s, my dad was an incubator baby in Coney Island. He was on display. They had just invented the incubator. He was.
You could literally tell me anything, I'd believe.
No, it's true.
Yeah. Totally.
Was that it, or was there a longer one?
I think there's a little more to it. Maybe I.
All right, hang on a second.
Anyway,
let me. Hang on. Let Ruby ask a couple. Let me go back and see if I can't find the longer one.
Yeah.
Let her have it.
So this is really weird. So they're
weird.
saying that this man invented incubators so he could display babies, but was it supposed to help them in some way? Because they said that they were premature. So it was it to help them like grow until they were, like regular baby age, like when they're born?
Well, yeah, if you listen to Jerry Seinfeld, yes, some of them didn't survive, but some that did, they grow up like a normal child would. But they had him in, he had a lot of nurses there, so they were well taken care of, and they were in the glass zone. But the thing that was morbid was charging people to view these.
Exactly. That's what seems like unethical. But where did
it's interesting how it tied in with the orphan trains. And next week, if I may, I'm going to talk about the slum landlord who was one of the wealthiest men in America. And he owned Manhattan and a whole bunch of other ports in New York. He bought Manhattan for $2,000, and he had 1,000 buildings. They were all slum buildings that you wouldn't put you wouldn't put your dog in one of these apartments. So, and I'll bring that up next week because it brings up all the wealthy families in America from 1860 to 1890. You have 7 of your most wealthiest people in the world pop up from 1860 to 1890. So the more I'm opening up, the more the stuff's coming out. So I'll do a deep dive into these 7 very wealthy families.
And I'm so sorry to do this to you guys, but I have to end the stream. I have to leave.
Okay. No problem.
And I'm the only one that's able to like click the button.
Oh, all right.
So we're gonna have to do a cliffhanger, and I hate doing that because I have a million questions. But we're gonna have to bring this back up next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Definitely, and this is the first thing we're gonna talk about next Tuesday because that is. I have too many questions. So as soon as 9 o'clock hits next Tuesday, we're talking about incubators. And Leonard, I'm so sorry, Leonard. We were supposed to do the amendments.
Where is Leonard?
He was here earlier, like when the show started, and I thought we were gonna have time, but the show took its own life form. So sorry about that, guys. So I have to end the stream. Thank you so much to Jimmy, Gail, and Dave, and Grady for coming on the show. And I'm so thankful that Grady was able to do this because I really wanted my coworker who's a Black Panther to come on the show, and he has not reached out to me yet. So I really want to get all perspectives on the UPC. That's my goal. I want to invite as many people as possible.
Well, I'm trying to get Enoch on.
I know. So this is really cool. All right, guys, I have to go. I am so sorry.
Good night, Ruby. Thank you.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy 4th of July.
Yes. We'll do like a post or something. We'll do a stream. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Deuces.
Good night.